N003AB, flying to Air Devil, runway 24, clear for takeoff.
Roger, Delta 252, turn right heading 090, climb and maintain 4,000 feet, clear for takeoff.
Breeze 135, Aviation 16. Port side high, I'm coming down hard.
Roger. 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Patrick ManBear Williams, welcome to the Aviation Bug. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
So, ManBear, I want to get into ManBear, but before I do, you got something you want to say?
Oh, Mike, thanks for having me on this. I'm excited about your idea to get different stories about aviation out to folks that might be wanting to join what we get to do.
Yes.
For a living. You know, I've done airlines and backcountry and Air Force, and just for the Air Force comments I'll make today are not sanctioned by the United States Air Force. I'm just speaking my own personal opinion here.
Good.
Of what I've learned and what I've gone through.
Right.
And of course, we keep everything here that can stay out in open media.
Exactly. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I asked one guy, flew B2, I said, okay, there is a cookie jar with 100 cookies. How many of those cookies can you not give to me? Because it's secret. It's like 75%.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
There we go.
Sounds about right.
All right, so ManBear Williams, I have to know, first of all, where did you get this call sign?
My call signs are stories that go on to stories and stories. You might have heard this from others, but you don't get to choose your call sign.
Right.
And the more you want one, the less you're going to get it, and you'll probably get something you don't want.
All right.
So the ManBear story, now the rest of the story will have to be saved for over a beverage sometime, because that's how those stories go. But it had to do with a trip I was on, an F-15s in the 12th Fighter Squadron. It was our last temporary duty, before we closed up the squadron. And so we were down in Singapore, and unfortunately it was just so smoky. So smoky, we hardly flew at all. We'd go to work, brief, cancel, eat lunch, and then find ways to entertain ourselves. And one of those was working on the internet. We'd do some studying, and then what we found about was South Park had all their episodes that we could watch. And so the ManBear Pig episode came up to be, and we started joking around about it. And there might have been a funny incident one evening that led to that. So we're on that temporary duty to Singapore.
Yep.
And very smoky. Can't fly, go to work, cancel, eat lunch, brief, cancel, and then find ways to entertain ourselves. South Park website was unrestricted in Singapore at the time. Who knows why? And then we started watching every single episode. And the ManBear Pig mythical creature episode came out. And we started making fun of each other with that particular storyline. And evening there where I did not want to venture out with the boys, and that came back to have a little bit of a battle in the compound we were living at, when I had to defend myself later on in the evening time or early morning time. And after that it became the mythical creature, the ManBear, Hank. And so it evolved from there as I went from F-15 to F-22 and kind of had to stick and go through a renaming.
So when you talk about, so guys can be renamed based on incidences and things. You can carry a call sign for years, and it will switch if it's a big enough incident.
Air Force will typically hold a call sign for a long time. I know that some of my Navy buddies have changed call signs multiple times. I'd say I've been more in that boat a couple times. But Air Force usually, and at least in fighter training, you'll get a call sign when you're going through your fighter training. And it's just a spoofer. It's something funny that you can kind of go through that practice, and it's not something you're going to keep. You earn your real call sign when you finish your mission qualification training program. The guys kind of get to know you. Hopefully you've done something dumb or funny or something that can be told into a story. And
that's awesome.
And if you can't tell your parents about it, then they'll come up with a cover story to be able to tell them.
I love that. I love that. What are some other cool call sign names that you, give me 5 that you know?
Oh, these are so fun. I had a pilot training instructor in T-38s. So sometimes a call sign is a play off of a last name.
Right.
Sometimes it's an acronym. Sometimes it's just something funny you did.
Yeah.
So his last name was Chitman, Chitmon. One of our favorite instructors, great guy, flew F-16s, and his call sign was Holy, for Holy Chitman. And it took me way too long to get that in pilot training. So that's a fun play.
That's a
off
good
of
one.
a last name.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be something like Shag. Sounds cool. Stands for social hand grenade. Somebody that just isn't good in a social situation. So there's plays off of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
People love the call sign stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
love the call sign
it's
stuff.
a creative thing. It takes us many hours. It's a whole ceremony in the Air Force, and each squadron has their traditions. They rope
really?
into it. It takes hours.
Does it really?
Hours to go through, because you got to get the creativity juices flowing first of all. That takes a little bit of a warm up, and
Yeah.
and that's why we protect our fighter bars so much. It's a show of respect to somebody that we have invited into the club that's proven themselves and that we can trust to go not only into combat with us, but on trips with us, to take care of each other. And we want to see maybe how they perform at that stage before we can trust them on the road too. So there's drink traditions, funny songs, all sorts of stuff that we do as we try and get the different instructors and the senior guys in the squadron to start throwing up names that this guy could have.
Did it originate like World War II, Vietnam? Do you know where it started?
From what I've read, in
Yeah.
World War II, if you did something funny, they didn't really have a call sign story and that such like we do. They call somebody Smitty if his last name was Smith.
Okay.
Or kind of more just a simple nickname.
Like our dads would call it.
Right.
Almost like.
So I think it really came to being more in the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And the overall, and I could be wrong on that, but the overall premise is that you have a unique name,
Yep.
your Indian name if we call it,
Yeah.
not your Christian name, where that's unique to you. And if there is a situation developing airborne that we need to get, say, your attention on, then instead of just saying Mike, for example,
Yep.
and there's 3 Mikes in the formation, I can say something to the effect like, pick a million different names that I have here,
Sure.
like mute, pull up. So it goes right to him and he can hear it and he knows that's what he goes by.
It's super dang effective.
Right. And
no doubt about
we
it.
begin to lose track of what our first names are anyways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
someone can call the squadron and say, hey, is Mike there? And we'll be like, I don't know.
Who is that?
Who is that?
Yeah.
What's his call
That's
sign?
awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is very awesome. All right, so these are rapid fire questions that I have developed over time. And so if you want to expand on some of these, feel free. If not, just
Okay.
just tell me what
Just
they
rapid
are.
fire.
Yeah. So your total flight time.
About 4,000 hours.
Okay. Pilot qualifications, ratings, realizing the military. You guys don't get, an F-22 type rating per se or an F-15 type rating, but of the airplanes that you have flown and gotten qualified on, and you don't have to say every single engine, but just bam, bam, bam. Give me kind of a list of what you've flown.
Right, okay.
Your lifetime.
Started in Super Cubs.
Okay.
Real young, and got my private pilots all that through.
Yep.
And so about 1,000 hours in that.
Okay.
Air Force, kind of standard pilot training route. A couple hundred hours there. T-37, T-38.
Okay.
About 500 in the F-15C.
Okay.
About 1,500, just over 1,500 in the F-22.
Okay.
And a couple hundred now in the T-6. And then
Nice.
some various odds and ends in there with the Delta 757, 767.
Okay.
Just under 1,000 there.
Nice. First airport you soloed from?
Yeah, Nampa, Idaho.
Napa, Idaho.
Nampa, Idaho.
Hardest airplane you've flown?
I would probably say in my experience, probably the T-38.
Okay. I love that because that's you're the third pilot now
Yeah.
that I've interviewed that has said that.
But it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah. Get you ahead of the game, I guess,
Well,
right?
yeah, fun story. I just learned about the Stearman.
Okay.
When Boeing initially built that, the landing gear was wider because that was one of the pilot training airplanes going into World War II. Before you go to the BT-19 and go fly the T-6. The landing gear was wider, so it was easier to land. And evidently, the Army Air Corps went back to Boeing and said, no, you need to make it harder.
Is that
so
right?
they narrowed the landing gear. brought it back in
For a purpose.
for a purpose. And,
That's pretty cool.
You know, the T-38 was developed to be a supersonic jet trainer, and you want to make sure that you have a line where people go above or below it, wash out, if you will, when it's cheap to the taxpayer.
Sure.
You don't want them getting into the very expensive airplanes.
And learning there.
And not wash out there. And it's not that you can't, with unlimited hours, teach all these people to fly, anybody to fly these airplanes. It's just the taxpayer can't afford it. So
Sure.
you got to learn at a certain amount of time. And
That
if you
makes
can't
sense.
learn at that rate, you know,
That
maybe
makes
that's
sense.
not for you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Easiest airplane you've flown?
Okay, I'd say the T-37.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a stable airplane. In and out of spins really easily. It's a great pilot training airplane. Other than the noise, it really flew nice.
I
and
find
it
what's
was fairly
super
easy.
interesting when I talk to guys is a lot of guys will give me, like, I've got Airbus pilot guys. They'll say, oh, the Airbus is the easiest to fly. I'm like, but you flew a 172. You almost forget that you learn that base on such a simple airplane.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to it. You finally get to that professional level and say you're on an Airbus. And it just seems so simple because you don't have to trim it and this, that, and the other. But you know, you can't get slow in a jet, right? I mean,
Right.
maybe an Airbus you can get slow because it really protects you.
Right.
But it's funny just to hear the different answers with people, and they almost forget, like, how basic a 172 is, or a
Yeah.
Super Cub. Let's say you're Super
Well,
Cub.
now I didn't grow up flying any Cessnas. In fact, I was worried going to pilot training because I hardly had any nose wheel time.
Oh, really?
I'd just grown up flying, and I did a bunch of sailplane flying, glider flying at the Air Force Academy. So I had learned in tail wheels. So, you know, learning to land a Super Cub in a crosswind on one wheel and getting beat over the head by Dad until I got it right was challenging. So the T-37, my first tricycle gear airplane, I was like, wow, this is nice.
This is easy.
This is pretty easy.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Hardest systems to learn?
Boy, it was probably the F-15.
Really?
When I went in there, because that was the first time where you had a lot of tactical systems on top of just basic airplane systems.
Okay.
So you walk into to day one in the classroom, and there's a stack of books this high, and this much of it is for your basic aircraft systems, and then you have all the tactical systems on top of that, and they step you through it really, really beautifully. Air Force does a good job of that. But it was you didn't know what this next book said by the time you started flying, because you just knew how to fly the airplane. So they built on that over the
And
8
so,
to 9 months.
just to kind of take that into the F-22, you already had a basic knowledge of
I
the
already had a
tactics,
basic
and so
knowledge.
you're just painting
Yeah.
another layer on top of that.
Right.
Okay.
And
it makes
you had
sense.
to have a lot more. I don't know if you remember, like in your probably early airline days, guys had to really know how to sketch out the system.
Oh, yeah.
Flight engineers and all that. Well, we know that in Delta they've taken a lot of that away, so it seems less challenging. So
Do they do that in the fighter world? Did you learn on a deeper level on the F-15 than say
Yeah.
the F-22?
yeah, but
That's super interesting.
I only
Explain
went through
that.
a 3-month F-22 course. So had I gone into a full basic course for the F-22, it might be different, but the modern airlines, some of the F-22 systems are more automated into the system, and the checklist is integrated into the screen. So
Okay.
it backs you up
PFM is
instead
just
of having
happening.
to know that knowledge.
gotcha.
It's more readily accessible to you. So to take the time and learn it and sketch it out doesn't really have the effects that it used to, because we don't have the switches to control each individual system
Yeah,
either.
that's true.
I can't turn hydraulic systems on and off, and I can't.
They either
move
work or
fuel
they
for
don't.
They either work or they don't.
So interesting. Scariest moment in an airplane in your entire career ever of flying airplanes?
You have to have me pick one, huh?
Just one. Could have been a Super Cub. Might be an airliner.
Gosh. We're all here by luck and good timing. I'd say one of the scariest moments was going into some basic fighter maneuvers with a buddy of mine, and he rolls up behind me, I roll up behind him, and I see him level his wings and start to break into me. But unbeknownst to him, his G suit had become detached
Oh, wow.
from the airplane. So when he pulled, he almost went full blackout. He went right into a gray situation. Didn't lose total blackout because he knew what to do. But see his jet just take a nosedive towards the earth and not respond, and thinking I was going to watch a buddy pack it in right there was not I mean, you're going through, you're trying to help him out, but flying back, you're playing the what ifs.
So once he started down, he came to and just pulled out of it.
Yeah,
or what
you
happened?
try and say number one, I should have said number one, pull up, but number one, are you okay? Kind of no response, and then I said number one, roll right and pull up, because if you can't see,
at least you can listen,
because you can hear still, and you have some tactile capability.
Sure.
And he had actually through the negative G, and his seatbelt was a little bit loose. It floated a little bit in the airplane, so he was trying to reach down and grab the stick and the throttles. And he was able to do that and then pull up out of it, and it was a time where we knocked it off and came right home. But that was a pretty scary moment to watch.
What airplane was that?
I was in the F-22.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, but those things happen. What had happened was his seatbelt had covered the loop in his G suit. So when he had twisted his body to the left to look at me and over his shoulder,
it
had popped out, we think, his G suit hose, and you're not going to know it because that airplane can go up to 9.5 Gs, and it will lay it on and hold those Gs. And if you're not ready for it, you can start to black out, and that happens in several phases that we learn. That's why we go through the centrifuge training.
Sure.
So the first thing you typically do is you're going to lose color vision. Everything turns to shades of gray, and then you can start to see some sparkles. So if you recognize that flying,
you can unload the airplane.
You push off the G, and you get back on your G string really aggressively, and you don't give up until you're back at 1 G.
Wow.
Because sometimes coming from 9 Gs to 5 Gs feels like you're off the G, but you're not.
But you really need to unload it completely. Wow.
Right. And so if you can recognize those signs, you know what to do. After the sparkles happen and you've gone to shades of gray, then that's typically when the black curtain will come in. And as that black curtain comes in, as the blood leaves your head, you can still hear and you can still feel. So when the lights fully go out, then your body relaxes because you've lost all blood in your brain. So you turned off the juice to the computer.
How high off the ground were you when this event happened? Do you recall?
We had merged at about 15,000 feet, and I think he ended up recovering about 5,000 feet.
Woo, mama. That's scary.
And that only took about 15 seconds.
All right, one aviation moment you'll never forget. It could be a sunrise. It could be something in the F-22. It could be in a Super Cub. Just something that you say, gosh, I would just never forget that for whatever reason.
Yeah, two really cool moments. I'll pick an F-15 moment up in Alaska. What an awesome place to fly fighters.
I've heard that
Not only
before.
for the low levels, but the black sky and everything. We were doing some night flying. We have to go way out west into the Stony MOA. And this one night I was flying as an simulated adversary. So we have to go farther west. Anyway, the mission lasts about 30 minutes and we're coming home. So I'm flying kind of a east-southeast back to Anchorage. And, with night vision goggles on, you can see everything. There's a moonless night. And we'd leave the night vision goggles on because you can see the northern lights, the aurora, when you can't see with the naked eye. And it had been pretty active that night looking up to the north. So I turned down all my lights and I was wanting to see if I could see with my bare eyes now that I didn't need all my mission systems, just sitting up there at about 35,000 feet on altitude
bare
hold.
eyes?
Yeah, bare eyes.
No pun intended.
Yeah,
there.
right. Bare eyes. So I pull off the night vision goggles and as my eyes adjust, this halo of super bright red and white aurora just seemed to envelop our formation and circle us. And there was this, and the aurora up high looks like little fingers coming down out of the sky. And there was this wave that just kind of guided us all the way home, right towards Anchorage. It was ironic that the path we were on just kind of flowed us all the way home. So for 20 minutes,
you
up high there before
experienced
descent.
this.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. So we just had the lights off and everybody was just quiet up there flying home, just taking in this amazing sight of having these lights dance around us. Because you have a great view because it's all open canopy. So you can see the entire sky.
It's so cool how, unless you fly, you don't know this. But there's those times in aviation, and it could be something as incredible as that, or something as benign, we'll say, as just like the way a thunderstorm looks, or a cloud, or just a sunset. Like, you'll never see that exact thing again. Like, there's a snapshot you won't see. You'll see some cool stuff, something maybe as special as that, but that you won't see that ever again in your life. It's the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, and that's what made night flying so spectacular. The things you think you're not going to see a lot, but there, if you're looking, you'll see some.
That is,
you know,
that's awesome. All right,
really cool
dumbest
things.
thing you ever did in an airplane?
Well, it kind of ties to a scary moment, but I just had my private pilot's license, flying the Super Cub, coming back into the traffic pattern.
Is this in Idaho?
Yep, in Idaho. And I had been out in the training area on the training frequency, and I had thought I had swapped over to the CTAF.
Okay.
And I had not. Must have double clutched it or something. Made all my standard radio calls, and
Boy, it's quiet up here.
I was off altitude and was wondering why I was off altitude, because I was always, pretty beat in to always be on altitude. And man, just at that time, I was about to correct altitude by climbing 200 feet to pattern altitude. I look up and a Cessna goes right over the top of me. And I immediately got, man, where did you come from? Blah, blah, blah. It sounded like an idiot. So I bug out of the pattern. I kind of dive down and out of the way and leave the pattern to get my heart rate under control.
Yeah.
And I was on the wrong frequency. It was my fault by missing the common traffic calls and everything. So I'd been mad at that guy, and come to find out when I went to switch back to CTAF, I was on the wrong frequency. So that was not only a scary moment, but probably one of the dumbest things I've done. And it's those simple things can get you. Just one little simple thing.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
By the grace of God, I'm telling you. I'd say that's the closest you've come to death in an aircraft.
Not the closest.
What's the closest?
You have close passes in fighters in training. We have training rules to keep us safe, much as you try and apply to it. And those rules are written in blood, as we say in the fighter community. If you're doing dogfighting and you have a 500-foot bubble around the other airplane that you're not supposed to pass in between, and you approach that, someone calls knock it off and you deconflict flight paths. But there are times where someone will be late to recognize it, and you're going so fast that those passes, I had a pass happen inside 200 feet one time. And when you're talking 300, 350 knots, it is scary because you didn't have the reaction time to get out of the way. I had a F-18 guy that was doing some dogfighting, and we like to give them an offensive set as an F-22, and he was a younger guy, and he really wanted to get gun footage of an F-22. But we can really stop that airplane, and we can make it look like a really juicy gun target, but what we've done is basically stop, and there's so much closure. That he put his nose in to get the gunshot and didn't recognize it. That he had so much closure, and as I look over my shoulder, he pulled so much lead fire that he was basically on a collision path. And if I hadn't pushed that jet over and rolled as quick as I can, he passed right over my left wing, and I was as quick as I could move the jet.
Gosh.
And we know that, and we know we brief that all the time. We know that's a new guy who's never had a dogfight against a Raptor. We know that they're going to be aggressive. So the training rules still save us. He missed the range, but we still build in that factor of safety. But there's times in fighters where that speed, I think, is much closer and faster. I'd like to say I had none, but
That's the coolest story, though, because as you said, you briefed it, but he'd never seen it. Probably couldn't even imagine that it could have happened that fast because of the ability of the Raptor. That there it was, just like that, and you had to offensively or defensively be ready to just get rid of that picture that immediately came to you. Like, we talked about this, but yet it happened anyway.
That's why we try and pair up more experienced guys, instructors, with new guys, even if we're doing dissimilar training. If we're going to go fly with a F-18 squadron, and they're going to put up a young guy to fly to F-22, we're not going to put our young guy up there. We're going to put one of our instructors. And we do the same thing. If we have a real young guy flying a new guy, very inexperienced, we're going to put him up against one of the F-18 instructors. So we're trying to balance that out because most of the instructors have seen it before.
Yeah.
And they know what to watch for because they've lived through these close calls.
So an F-22 hasn't ever been lost, has it? Has there been?
Not in combat. We've had, I think, 6 tails that have been lost.
Okay.
We've had a couple successful ejections, and we've had a couple non. So
Okay.
a couple guys have been killed. I think we've had three safe ejections now. So, yeah, it's
Could you?
it just happens.
I mean, are you able to say from the accident investigation standpoint, like, due to the capability of the airplane, this is why this happened. This wouldn't happen in a less capable airplane, such as the story that you just told. Like, only because of the capability of the Raptor will an F-18 get up on it like that, right? I mean, essentially.
Yeah, because we can show them things they haven't seen with other F-18s because they can't do that when they're fighting each other.
So could any of those accidents been attributed to really the capability of the airplane?
We've never lost an airplane in that type of tactical scenario.
Gotcha.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
We've had some close calls for sure. We've had some nice improvements on the airplane. The Air Force has done a great job of taking those seriously when there's improvements to be made. I thought they've done a really good job doing that. But most of ours have been in the administrative phase of flight.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. Dream airplane you'd still love to fly?
Oh. That's a good question. There's so many.
I know, right?
Because we want to fly everything as pilots.
I should
That's probably
say,
the toughest
as an
question.
F-22 pilot, a dream airplane that you still...
I'd love to get into the P-51 because, man, so much of the squadron history,
right?
And the squadrons I've been in, we keep that history alive and we hear those stories and it's folded into our books. And so growing up and hearing the stories of what those guys did, pick your fighter, they're all great. There's a lot of Mustangs there, but I think that would just be a fantastic experience to have.
So talking about the Guard here in Hawaii, so F-22, back it up, F-15, was there a fighter squadron here prior to that?
Yep, the Hawaii Air National Guards had airplanes here for a long time. F-4, F-86, F-102.
Okay.
When they started sitting alert, and the squadron patch reflects that all the way through, which is a really cool deal. I think I can't remember what year it goes back to. Yeah, P-47s.
P-47s was an Air National Guard squadron here in Hawaii.
That's correct.
On Hickam?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
And my history gets a little fuzzy getting back into the previous to that, Army Air Corps.
Okay.
When there were 9 airfields here on Oahu at the
wow.
time. Yeah, I think in 1942.
There was that many.
There was that many airfields here. Wow. So there was an active duty squadron. The 19th Fighter Squadron was here with P-39s and their rich history from moving around the Pacific.
We just looked up the other day. We were coming back from the North Shore and we were talking about Pearl Harbor Day and how many airplanes actually got off of the ground at Wheeler. And there were 5 airplanes. There were 3 P-40s and I can't remember what the other 2 flavors were. But that's what got off the ground. And they did like this crazy amount of sorties. They must have gotten in the fight, came back, fueled up. I don't know.
That's right.
But
Lieutenant Welsh and Taylor are the 2 most famous ones that have been depicted in movies.
Oh, okay.
They took off from Haleiwa Airfield, just north of Wheeler, because Wheeler was under attack. 30-some dive bombs fell on Wheeler. And they took off, and the Japanese didn't know we had this little auxiliary field there. And those airplanes were kind of fueled and armed up to go out on a Monday morning training mission and practice strafing on some water targets.
Really?
So as these 2 guys are driving up in their party suits from the night before, they took one look at Wheeler, evidently said, hey, not a good time to go there, and they kept driving up to the North Shore. And they even survived a Japanese strafing attack on their way up there, hopped in a couple P-40s, took off.
Is this out of, you called it, what did you call
Haleiwa.
it? So is that Dillingham now?
No,
this is
this is the right near the town of Haleiwa at Puina Point.
Really?
There's an old airfield there that's mostly overgrown now.
How cool is that? I did not know that.
They did refuel and rearm at Wheeler and flew, I think, 2 more sorties.
Wow.
Yeah, evidently. And I just came across this story just a couple days ago, was that Lieutenant Welsh, when they landed at Wheeler, got yelled at by a superior officer that he needed to change his pants and put on his official flying pants before he went out flew again while they're getting bombed. And he defied order, him and Taylor, and they hopped in the airplanes, went back and probably shot some more airplanes down. But evidently that was a contributing factor as to later on why he didn't get the Medal of Honor and it was downgraded. It was because that superior officer did not concur with the recommendation and it was downgraded to, the next lowest one. Just very frustrating, right? But he went on, Lieutenant Welsh, he went on to get 16 kills and become a triple ace throughout World War II in the Pacific. Yeah, quite a pilot.
A badass.
And then a test pilot for North American, and those stories are amazing.
Gosh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, biggest aviation regret.
Man, I don't think I have one.
Come on. I've got 3.
Okay, what are yours?
Had a chance to fly a 7.4, didn't do it.
Okay.
Made sense for my family. Had a chance to ride in a MiG-29 in Russia. Didn't get my butt over there. This dude ended up running the Air Force for the Russians.
Wow.
He was the same guy who ejected out of MiG-29 in Paris in like 91 or 93. Remember that?
Okay.
When that happened?
Yeah.
I met him on a little regional airplane, and he said, "You come to Russia, I take you up in a MiG-29," and it just never happened.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I had a chance to fly on the Concorde, and we didn't take it up. We didn't have any money. It was like $700. It was like a airline fare thing. Didn't do it. Those are my regrets. So they're small. They're still regrets though. They're aviation regrets. But you don't have any. My gosh.
No, I don't think so. I think I've taken advantage of the opportunities that I felt were right to do.
See, that's the difference between a civilian and a military guy. You just make good decisions. All right, pilot watch of choice.
Man, I'm not a fancy watch guy. I wear the Air Force pilot training G-Shock.
Okay, there you go.
Because it's a rubber banded watch, and it's got a rubber casing to it, and it's it's sweat-proof, waterproof, and the cockpit of a fighter airplane is not a calm place. It's pretty violent, and then we don't pay a lot of money for pads and stuff, and so when you're moving around the cockpit at high G, there's multiple times where your hand is slamming across the canopy. So
is it really?
If I had anything fancy or worth money, I'd probably beat the crap out of it. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the best pilot you've ever flown with in your view?
Oh, I would.
Who sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, well, I would love to say my old man, because he taught me how to fly.
Yeah.
But he might kick me by saying that, because we both flew with a good family friend of ours, a real good friend of his, and that's Bob Hanna.
Okay.
Hurricane Hanna, the famous motocross guy from the 80s.
Really?
Dad became friends with him, and he taught me how to back up an airplane down a slope, a tail wheel. So that guy obviously did so well in motocross. He can just read machines. He becomes one of the machine.
I love that.
And his precision is so amazing.
Really?
Probably the closest thing to being able to fly with a guy like Hoover in that sense. Because I once said to Hannah, I said, "How did you, based on the angle of the slope, what's your approach speed and flaps?" And he's like, "Oh, 1.15 VS and this notch of flap." I mean, it wasn't just 1.1 or 1.2, 1.15.
He had it
down to the
dialed.
knot. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. I've never seen anybody fly an airplane like you can ride a motocross
I love
bike.
that.
And it's safe and it's smooth, and he knows his limits. So I think that, Dad and I would both say that.
That's cool. Very cool. All right. First job you ever had, not in aviation. First job, teenager probably, younger.
Yeah, well, it was in aviation.
It was.
Yeah.
Your first paid job was in aviation.
Yeah, at the Nampa Airport, being a line boy,
Is that
fueling
right?
airplanes at age 16 or whatever. I could start working
Is that
out
right?
at the
I love that. That's
wipe down
good, man.
tables and fuel up airplanes. It was a great few month job. Summer
So
job.
I want people to get to know you a little bit, in that I find it interesting what, of all the guys I fly with, what makes them get into the world they're in. Now, a lot of times a guy may get into the military because he needs an education and it's cheap. He may get into the military because, man, I saw Top Gun and that's all I wanted to do is fly fighters. They may get in and they're the ace of the base, but there's no fighters given out per se. And they
Timing.
it's timing, right? And then there's, of course, the guys who have the ability, their dream airplanes are all there, top of the class gets to pick and blah, blah, blah. From my perspective, being a civilian, right, and seeing all these different guys, I see a kind of a characteristic in fighter guys versus other guys. And the way I would boil it down so that maybe people could understand it is, to me, I see this person that would probably played athletics or was on a team or is very, very competitive naturally. Even if they weren't on team sports, they're competitive. Maybe it's competitive because they're the younger brother. you know, something like that. Did you always want to be a fighter pilot? Growing up, your dad flew. Take us back a little bit, like from the beginning. You're born in Idaho?
Yep.
All right.
Up in Salmon, Idaho. Folks lived in a no-kidding log house, and Dad was doing some, he was working for a mountain flying operation out of there.
Okay, so
He was kind of a bush pilot, if you will, there, and that's what that was his job. And we lived there till I was about 5 or 6 years old. So the year I was born, he actually bought a Super Cub from out in Nebraska, been blown over in a windstorm.
Wow.
And we brought that back to help with some of those airstrips, the shorter airstrips that the Cessnas couldn't fly into.
Okay.
That kind of augment the business. And he could contract out to help pay for the airplane for the Bureau of Land Management, go doing predator control and trying to find ways to make the airplane pay for itself. So, you know, and he was a flight instructor too, so I call this the Tiger Woods experience. He was just born into the right place.
That's great.
I got a
man.
guy where, you know, I have an airplane and we take off in the Cub, and at the time, crawl over, sit on his lap, and I think my first logbook entry was 5 years old because I could log time.
That's
Flight
awesome.
Instructor.
Right.
Might have been 20 minutes, and I think the entry said, saw horses and cows in the Salmon River Valley. So that must have been a big deal.
That's great.
So it was just part of the family experience, and it was always unique. It was always fun flying in to support these ranchers or hunters. If there was a time that I could go, you just met the characters of the backcountry, and that's real living. If I could sneak on a hunting trip, or if I could just do a haul, it would just became, man, this is the coolest thing ever. So we move. Dad gets a better job. Can't support yourself on much of a bush pilot salary,
Right.
especially during that time. So we moved to just south of Boise. Dad picks up a job for Harrah's Middle Fork Lodge back there, flying Twin Otters. And he's pursuing and maturing his aviation career. And he teaching me how to fly the Super Cub the whole time. And there was a couple things that stood out. And one of the things he said was, if you're going to be worth your salt as a pilot, you need to learn how to fly sailplanes or gliders.
Really?
He had done a lot of that in Sun Valley and taught in that. And, you know, every airplane's a glider when the engine fails. And that can be real deadly in the mountains. And you really got to know how to manage your energy.
Sure.
And I think my energy management lessons started as soon as I could fly the airplane. There was not one training flight, I can't remember, where he didn't pull the power on me and make me get in the habit pattern of looking for places to land and making that something that's always in the back of my mind. We're not taxiing on center line, as stupid as that sounds, because if you're not in the center of that little grass airstrip, you might be hitting your wingtips. So he had good purposes for all those lessons, but he was really adamant about the glider flying. And I said, well, how am I going to do that? We can't afford to do that. And he said, well, you know, the Air Force Academy has a glider program. And they do all that. Now, Dad wasn't airline or military. I said, oh, that's interesting. You know, Air Force, military, that doesn't really appeal to me at this time.
How old are you at this point?
Oh, I was probably 15.
Okay.
Yeah, 14, 15, really getting into the private pilot's license training.
But you're thinking, I want to be a pilot. I just don't know what, but this is what I'm going to do for my life.
I like it. I want to do this mountain flying stuff. That is challenging flying. And I thought that off airstrip flying was it. And I said, Dad, I think I'll just do what you did. He said, well, don't do it, son. You're going to be poor your whole life.
Right.
And I said, well, but you got great stories. He said, well, yeah, you go out, you make some money, and you can come back and do this, and you can teach in it, and you can still enjoy it, but you can set aside money for retirement. I said, well, if money's the thing, I guess I'll just jump into the airlines. And he took a pause and said, don't do it, son. You're going to be bored your whole life. I said, what are you talking about, Dad? Listen, I'm throwing up these opportunities, and you're shooting them down. I said, well, what else is there? And we drove about an hour and a half south and went to Mountain Home Air Force Base, and he took me to an air show there. And we looked at all the fighters, F-16. I still remember walking up to the F-16 and talking to the pilot. I'm like, who gets to fly these things? You know, there's no way. There's just no way. This is unachievable. And
that's what you thought at the time.
That's what I thought at the time. And I was just a wiry kid, 135 pounds in high school, and my competitiveness was from flying. But I was okay at soccer, but I was just still such a lightweight, you know, on that puppy stage.
Yeah.
Hadn't matured enough to to perfect that, but I could fly, and I was learning to fly, and that was my passion and kind of my escape from pressures in high school.
Sure.
And so we go to the air show, and then Dad said, well, you know, you got a cousin that, you got a couple cousins go to the Air Force Academy, and one of them's flying F-16s and went on to fly F-117s. And so he nudged me in that direction enough to find out about it and learn about it. I said, wow, you can get basically a full ride scholarship, go to the Air Force Academy and study aeronautics and fly these gliders for 3 years. I mean, a cadet instructor, it really appealed to me.
Wow.
And you get to live in Colorado. So I love the Mountain West. So I ended up pursuing that.
Wow.
And was lucky enough, fortunate enough to get accepted in. And so when I graduated high school, I went over to the Air Force Academy.
When you entered the Air Force Academy, how much flight time did you have?
Ooh, I probably had about between 200 and 300 hours.
Okay. So graduating high school with 200 to 300 hours of basically all your tail dragger time.
That was it.
Everything.
Yep.
When you were growing up, were you a gearhead? Did you ride motorcycles? Did you,
I love
work
machinery.
on stuff? So
Yeah.
you love machinery.
But we didn't have like motorcycles and stuff. But if there was something I could drive, I loved it.
You were all
Yeah,
over it.
loved operating that stuff, and learned maybe early on that the running the family, just small farm, wasn't necessarily going to be for me. I'd have to give animal shots and stuff. I'd get squeamish, so I'm like, well, the medical field's probably not for me. But flying airplanes and being around them was hard to describe, but a calling like many of us have had.
Did you feel like when you saw that F-16 at Mountain Home, like, okay, I'm doing that. I'm going to do what it takes to do that. If I'm going to join the military, I want to fly fighters. Was that a mindset?
Yep, and I knew that when I got into the academy, I kind of stepped it back and knowing what I wanted to do. I obviously wanted to become very good at flying, so I did the soaring program as an instructor and sailplane racer on the cross-country team. But my whole vision was to get a pilot training slot.
Okay.
And the Air Force Academy, compared to the other commissioning sources, had the majority of the slots as a percentage of the graduating class. Pretty much if you wanted one, you could get one if you were in the top 80% of the class.
Oh, okay.
Versus competing at officer training school or ROTC unit, much more people, less slots. So I said, well, I'm not that smart. If I can get into the academy, then I got a good shot at getting a pilot training
So you
slot.
got in the academy, and that was able to get into what you wanted. So
Right.
So at what point in the academy do you know I'm going to be able to go fly fighters?
I think it is junior year. The Air Force, they release how many slots they have.
Okay.
And you start to get your class rankings somewhere around the early fall of your senior year, if I remember correctly. And so then you have to do your final flight physicals. Are you qualified? You pass all those tests to go to pilot training. And I think it's fairly well secured January of your senior year before you graduate. You got the spot.
And you know what
you're starting to get
airplane?
your assignment. Nope, you're just going to one of the 3 pilot training bases.
Okay.
You have to go compete.
Oh.
And at the time it was Columbus Air Force Base, Laughlin Air Force Base, and Vance Air Force Base. And then there was a Euro-NATO jet pilot training base that had different countries, and some guys would get selected to go to that.
You know you're getting fighters, you just don't know which
You don't
one
know
yet.
you're getting fighters. You just know you're going to pilot training.
That's it.
That's it. That's your pilot slot.
January of your senior year.
Yeah, and then you get your date. And
So how far into pilot training do you actually know you're going to get fighters?
at the very end.
Okay.
So you
once
go-
all your grades come out, everything.
Yeah, you go in with a class of 30-ish, and I started in the T-37. Now students start in the T-6,
right.
Texan 2. And that lasts for 6 months. And you're getting graded the whole time. Every flight's a grade sheet flight. There's periodic check rides throughout the way of anything from formation to instrument flying, and they have really well set out phases. And then at the end of that 6 months, you track select either to T-38s or was to T-1s, which is like fighter bomber, or you're going to go to kind of heavies.
Gotcha.
And it's about, 4 to 6 people out of that 30 go to fighter bomber, and the rest go to heavies. That's it. So you got to be in the top 5-ish
Gotcha.
of your class. And then you go to T-38s, and then you start over. Start basic flying, basic formation, instrument flying, and at the end of that 6 months, when you graduate, depending on how you did and what the Air Force has available, that's when you put in your dream sheet and they'll give you what your airplane's going to be. They're going to
So
go
what
fly.
was 1, 2, 3 for you?
I had F-15Cs first, and then I had A-10s and then F-16s.
Okay.
I think were my number 1, 2, 3. And I was only like number 3 or 4 in my class at 6.
Gotcha.
I had some great friends still, and they were hard to catch. They were so competent and could learn so fast.
Are they all those guys still in aviation?
Yeah.
Are they?
All are still in aviation. And that was just a fun time. So you get your wings when you graduate there. You've got your base, your assignment base, and now you have a license to learn and go on to the next training set.
Was there ever a time from 5 years old, you logged your first 20 minutes, that you almost got derailed from being a pilot? An injury, anything along the way that potentially could have derailed you, or it's like, ooh, that was a close one.
Well, I mean, I've never been a good standardized test taker.
Okay.
And I had to take the SAT and ACT 3 times each to get into the Air Force Academy. And that sucked. Study all summer and then do worse on a test after that.
I love it though, because it just shows the persistence. It just shows the persistence, because there's going to be people here who are not going to get the grades that they...
Right.
And don't stop there. For crying out loud, don't stop.
Right.
Take it again.
Just keep doing it until they say...
That's what I'm saying.
So that
I love that.
That would have derailed me. If I hadn't gotten to the Air Force Academy, then who knows where the path would have taken, if I would have got a pilot slot or not.
Did you, when you didn't get the scores you wanted, did you say, screw this, I'm going to study more, I'm going to get what I need to get?
Yeah, I did.
mean,
And then I signed up for a class junior year of high school, summer after junior year. Spent like 2 months going through this
Studying?
awful course of just learning how to take a standardized test and learning the material. And it wasn't that I couldn't pull the knowledge, I just couldn't pull it fast enough in the time. A lot of rote memorization. And I've always been good at understanding a solution with an application behind it, like running machinery. Like once you know what it does, then you can move it pretty quick.
Right.
So, and then I go to take the tests, I think it was end of August, my senior year. And I did worse than I did before after studying for 2 months and giving up. So that was very frustrating and disheartening. And then I just said, whatever, I'm just going to take it every time until I can't take it. So I kind of studied, but I really just relaxed and went into it.
And finally got it done.
Yeah.
Gosh. I love stories like that for people who are downtrodden, you could say, because they fail at something, or they, maybe they fail a check ride and they think, oh, I'm done, I can't do it.
Right.
I mean, I just persist. Just keep going, keep pushing, right? I mean, that's a great testament.
Yeah, you never know. You never know what that path's going to be. The nice thing about the Academy, I thought was pretty fair on their admissions process, was they always took the highest you did. So if you did good on math on your SAT
They'd
one
set
time,
it aside,
and then you take it again, but math is lower, but English is higher, they just keep taking your highest
that's
scores.
good.
So
that's good.
So
give you credit where credit is due.
Right.
Was there ever a time you did something stupid as a kid that was like, oh, that could have really messed me up bad? Got arrested. Did something dumb.
Yeah, but I was pretty careful because I knew about mid-time in high school, I had my driver's license. I knew where I wanted to go.
See, that's
so
how
I didn't
was.
want to mess that up.
Yeah. Keeps you out of trouble, right? When you have a goal.
And I was a wiry little shrimp. I wasn't mature enough to go, really hang out with all the cool kids to do that stupid stuff. But I think growing up around aviation helped that too.
Yeah.
And Dad had another piece of his advice. It was, son, if you're going to get into aviation, you're going to see friends of yours killed in it, and you're going to lose people you know.
Yeah.
And that's just something this business has in it. And growing up in that house, there were times I remember him picking up the phone and hearing that a friend of his had been killed in an airplane accident. And so knowing the cost of not being good at it was right there all the time. So I think having that discipline at home and knowing what it takes to become good at it was just always lingering. So,
your dad obviously was your mentor.
Of course, yeah.
And probably has been the main focus mentor. Did you have any mentoring, those cousins that you mentioned, did they ever mentor you, or were you able to have access to them?
I had access for phone calls.
For phone calls?
Yep, to see what it was like. And
right.
they're a great set of cousins. All 3 were in the Air Force. 2 went to the Air Force Academy. By far the closest cousins I had to talking about the military.
That's
There was
cool.
really no military history in my immediate family
Gotcha.
that I could go back and ask questions on.
Were these cousins on your dad's side or your mom's side?
Yep, second cousin on my dad's side.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yep. And all did well. One was a traveling nurse. One went up to become retire as a 2-star, and then
Wow.
one as a colonel, and with some great flying experiences. Other mentors, I'd have to say though, is in aviation, man, pilots can be characters. So
gosh.
Dad is there, but it was the people he chose to spend time around, his coworkers and friends that were pilots, and man, that just once you get to hang out with guys like that, you want to become part of the crew like that.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's a fun group.
The characters that you come across in your
characters,
aviation
yeah.
career is like no other thing. It's something else.
It's like guys that have a standard but can still have fun. But
Yeah.
they're not going to let you slack out or do something dumb. They always seem to have each other's back and go have fun and do stupid things, but they're not really that stupid. They're just
Yeah.
kind of calculated risk.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I ask this to everyone as far as from a military standpoint, getting into the Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, wherever. So how much help does it give you in joining the military when you come in with some flying experience? And where does that stop? Where does that help stop, or does it not stop? Can you always feed back to it?
It can be really good or really bad.
Really?
I thought it helped out a ton. I mean, I don't think my flying experience definitely was a contributing factor to getting into the Air Force Academy, as being a broadened person and to have experiences related to aviation. It helped me become a very good glider pilot and an instructor, and my airmanship was already there, so I could focus on the nuances of flying the
Sure.
sailplanes. And it helped out with growing up flying around the mountains, helped me perform on the sailplane racing team, because I had grown up around mountain currents and wave and thermals, and Dad had taught me that, and I was able to have an awesome flight. I think my longest glider flight was 120 miles, and it took me 5 hours. Wasn't great,
Wow.
but I didn't have to land out, and that was pretty cool to stay
That's
airborne
very
that long
cool.
in a glider. Getting into pilot training, they level you out pretty quick.
Okay.
Like when you go to the Air Force Academy, everybody gets their head shaved. They're going to level the force.
Sure.
They're going to build you up and teach you the Air Force way. So you come in and you have stand up, and you got to stay your emergency procedures and your bold face, and that is all new. But the habits I learned about how to study,
Yeah.
and knowing that I had a background in airmanship. I think I had some really good mentors that came in and said, no matter what you know about flying, forget it now and learn our way. And you got to do that. If you come in saying, well, I flew these airlines, or I flew caravans, or I flew this, and you carry that, well, I've already done this, you're going to do worse in pilot training.
So it's really an attitude.
It's an
If you
attitude
just
of what you
suppress
do with
it,
the experience.
you know it's
Yeah.
there. It's a foundation.
Yeah, you already know
Be
how
humble
to,
about it.
Right.
But just go with the flow, and it'll seep in.
Right, like I knew how to talk on the radio and fly a little bit
Sure.
already. So that was one less stressor I had in pilot training, where I didn't have to overcome that. I had to learn how to speak Air Force
Right.
terms and what their tower wants to hear.
You didn't have to burn any brain cells in doing the
Right, so
basic
I was able
stuff that
to
other guys did.
keep my training accelerated
Right.
compared to my peers, because I had that airmanship, and with a humble attitude and having fun, you can do so much with that.
That's so cool. I love that. I know, because I've talked to guys in the past, the training intensity at the Air Force Academy and so forth. You said the Raptor was 3 months of training, but you had a base of already F-15
Yeah.
and everything that you had there. How intense is getting to your F-15 and starting that, as you described it? You've got a manual this tall. You've just done T-37, T-38. You get your jet, you go, now you're in training in the F-15.
Yeah, and it's not just
How-
Air Force Academy guys.
How intense is that compared to what you just experienced?
Yeah, pilot training, it all builds on it.
Okay.
That old saying of eating an elephant, I know it's cliche, but one bite at a time. And
Yep.
if you focus on those bites, then you're going to get through it. There's nothing worse than someone coming in, day one at T-38, saying, how do I fly formation in it? Like, no, you should be asking, where's the checklist and how do I start the engines?
Gotcha.
And where's the battery switch? Because you get too far ahead, you only got so much space to retain at one
Sure.
time. Like, focus on those steps that they're building you up to. So we had been built up to that, but the F-15 is pretty intense. So that was the hardest course I'd been to, and that's why I chose F-15s, because I heard the rumors were, well, Eagle guys eat their own. On the other hand, I heard if you're not good enough, they have a standard and you won't be part of that community, and I wanted to test myself with the hardest thing. And I loved air-to-air anyway, so I kind of was like, oh, man, if I can do that, that'd be, and you graduate that means something.
Right.
There's a standard. And it's 2 months of classroom work and tons of simulator work. And then you only have 4 rides, 4 actual flights before your very first check ride, which will wash you out of the program, or it did. And that 4th flight is your instrument check ride.
Wow.
So you have 3 flights to get your shit together, and then you got to perform on that 4th flight.
Are you doing a crap load of sim work?
Yeah.
Prior to that, though?
Probably 20, 30 hours, plus all of your emergency. You have to pass your emergency procedure simulator before you go into that check ride, which is basically that check ride with emergency. It is the instrument check ride, pretty quick hop from, say, Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida, up to Birmingham, somewhere you don't have a lot of cruise
You're in a
time.
2-seater F-15 taking this check ride.
Right, but you have to act a single pilot because they're training you to be single pilot. You don't have any help
got
from the
it.
back seat.
Okay,
he's only a
he's
safety
observing
observer.
and being there to see how
That's
you're
right,
doing.
because it's a single seat training.
Okay, very cool.
So that was, you go into that check ride, and I knew a couple guys. They failed that check ride, might have given them one more spot, and they're out. Reassigned to a different airplane. That's it, because the training is so expensive at that point. And if you can't do the basic instruments, which is all pilot training stuff, then how are they going to pile on
Everything
what they're
else.
about to do?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But it's fun. It is a lot of studying.
Was there a time where you thought, just even for a minute, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make this. I will not pass this. That self-doubt. Have you had that?
Yeah, I did, and it was my simulator emergency check ride right before that 4th flight.
Really?
Actually hooked or failed that check ride, and it was a very complex emergency procedure, and I'd messed up shutting down one engine, starting the other one, and I came back and I was pretty beat up because you're right on the edge. You know that you get one more shot at that simulator, and then you got to fly that, and if you don't pass, you're out. And I had a really good flight commander at the time sit down and talked him through it, and he said, man, your scores are good, you've been solid up to this point. And it was that kind of that confidence boost to go in and say, man, just follow the procedures. Get in there, go hit a couple practice sessions up, and you're gonna be just fine. And he was good about de-stressing it.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
Because it could have gone the other way.
And it always can. You have one bad day, and it can just, take you on a whole different path.
Was your guy the norm as far as trying to settle you down? Were there guys that could have put a little bit more pressure on?
Yeah.
And
I'd say in my experience at the 2nd Fighter Squadron, which is where I did my training at, just a high quality group of instructors. I don't think anyone that I knew there would have
everybody
done
wants
anything
to
other
see
than
the success.
They want to see success. They want to feed good guys in their community.
Yeah, that's good. All right, let's move into specifics on the F-22. What does the F-22 do that no other airplane will do?
Well, that probably gets you into things you can't talk about here. There's big technological leaps in every stage. That's why we call the F-22's 5th generation. And that was kind of coined when the F-22 was developed. Like, how do you compare it to everything else? You have your 4th generation fighters, F-16, F-15, 3rd generation F-86, maybe not an airborne radar. So still jets, and guns, maybe some rockets, and maybe 1st gen, kind of like your World War I, World War II type fighters. So something has to step up significantly to call it a 5th gen fighter. And one of the ways I like to talk about, and I'll just give this one instance, everything on the airplane is amazing. Worth every penny of taxpayer dollars. It is so incredible, and there's a reason we don't sell it to anybody else.
Sure.
Even our best friends. But you see those sports teams, if you're I give this analogy, if you're the quarterback on the football field, and you're out there and you're trying to look in 3 dimensions on a flat plane and make your pass decisions or run decisions, it can take some time because you're pulling in the sound, you're pulling in all this different movement from this plane, and it takes a little bit of time and you have your strategies, you have your plays, which are like our tactics that you're gonna execute. But how easy is it for the Monday morning quarterback or the John Madden to just look down on the field from a top and say, well, he should have just thrown it right here. This guy was wide open. and the time it takes to just say, oh, you should have just gone here. The F-15 and 4th gen airplanes, the systems are all federated. Radar screen over here, radar warning over here, tactical data link down here, and you have your communications that's coming in, and that's how you're divvying out all your tactics. Well, the F-22 takes all those federated systems and integrates them. And we hear this ever since the Raptor came out, integrated avionics, but it's the ability to fuse those into one picture, accurate picture, that we can then look at and make our tactical decisions that way. That was one of the major leaps in technology, because that's a lot of coding for those computers to help us out.
When you go backwards to when it was first developed to 2026, how much better is the F-22 today than it was when it first came off the line?
I'd just say we put a lot of, as taxpayers, and the Air Force has put a lot of investment into the F-22, and it's a worthwhile investment.
I love it. Is it twice as good?
I can't say. But we want that investment to work as a deterrent. You know, it's better to make anybody scared to fly against you than to have to go into into actually sending out, spending missiles and going into combat, all the costs of war.
Okay, so avionics integration, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about simply my hand's on the stick and I want to do something that I can't do in an F-15, an F-18, an F-16.
It's a dream to fly. It's like an extension of everything you've wanted to do in a fighter jet.
Does it do things when you fly it for the first time that you say, no way, no way?
Yeah, and they're little things too. F-15 center stick, all I'd ever flown was center stick. To go to the side stick, I was like, is this even gonna feel like an airplane anymore? Because the F-16, I know, just barely moves at all, just with pressure. And they designed the F-22 with more movement.
Okay.
Having learned those lessons to give us more full feel in the flight control system. But the flight controls don't operate the jet in the sense that if I go left stick or right stick, I'm moving my ailerons. I might, and I might not. What I'm commanding to the jet is pure movement along that axis.
I gotcha, and it'll use what it needs to do, including its engines.
For pitch, yes.
To do what it needs to do.
That's right. So if the most aerodynamically efficient way for me to pull 9 Gs may not be to move my stabs at all, it may be just to change the shape of the wing a little bit to get that lift vector, a bigger lift vector, and give me more turn, because it's all about energy management. The less drag you can have on the jet, the more energy you maintain, and that's what wins your fights. It's more efficient for fuel, and it's more efficient for dogfighting. So the math that goes behind the flight control system to find those efficiencies for us is amazing, and it flies like a true airplane.
So do you think that because of the advancements in AI now and what you know about the Raptor, that AI and let's just say quantum computing really is going to advance that fighter to a greater degree? Does it have the ability with better math to make it a better airplane?
I'm torn on this one. AI to me is trash in, trash out. It's it has to make its decisions based on what inputs it has, and it can do some probably propagation based on rule sets that it has to follow. But if it goes down a conclusion through its own calculative path that doesn't work or isn't physically possible, it could get caught there. So I think man in the loop, based on just how computers work and how I've always seen them work, maybe I'm old school, is very important to not only have the cost of war there, but to manipulate it independently from when all your systems get jammed or computers fail. Or that's why I love having a gun on the F-22, because missiles miss. That's why I joke. I mean, they'll hit. Sometimes the Air Force doesn't buy hittles, we buy missiles, right? And so there's a million miracles to make a missile work.
Right.
And at the rates of closure, you're going to be in a dogfight before too long. And if you don't have a gun to back that up, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And we learned that in Vietnam. And with some of our airplanes like F-35, we're learning it again on some of the versions. So it's a great thing. Old school, I think, will always be school. It's just how you iterate on top of that. Do I think AI and quantum computing can help sort out what's going on in a very complex electromagnetic environment? Yeah, but it takes a lot of power too. And power is precious on a fighter because you're trying to do a lot of things. So they got some challenges to overcome. I think it'll best augment man in the loop in some sense. There's a lot of challenges. Who knows what the future holds, but pretty tough to make it overcome everything, especially in air-to-air.
If you had a big platform that is in a holding pattern, say a KC-10 type airplane, and it's just full of supercomputers built by Elon Musk, could that do the math that the Raptor can't do on its own? The size, the platform, the energy, data link it to the Raptor, and then the Raptor can go do what it needs to do.
There's a lot of great questions, and I know there's a lot of stuff looking at that particular technology, but when you're talking bandwidth and transmitting through the atmosphere, you face the same challenges that our ham radio operators have. What frequencies work, what don't, how much information can you pass, and how fast can your computers receive that.
Gotcha.
When you're flying Mach 1, we equate that in fighter pilot math to 10 miles a minute. So we like to do our easy math like that.
Sure.
You know, typical airline's going to be flying, I don't know, 0.8 Mach, so 8 miles a minute.
Yeah.
So if you are going Mach 1 over here, and then you have an adversary Mach 1-ish over here, and you're each going 10 miles a minute, and you're 100 miles apart, you have 5 minutes before you're in a dogfight. And there's a lot of stuff that has to happen there. So they have their challenges. There's a lot of desire to have that information go back and forth between different airborne assets or ground assets or space assets, but they're working through those.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So from a big picture standpoint, if you were to say, this is how you should look at the F-22, and this is how you look at an F-15. 4th generation, 5th generation. This is how I look at the F-22, this is how I look at the F-15. What do you say about the F-15 from a big picture, or F-22 from a big picture standpoint?
Man, I love it. Like I said before, having flown the F-15 and got my butt kicked by the F-22 and fighting the F-22 in it, and then having got to switch seats and fly the F-22 and see it from both sides, amazing leap. So glad it's on our side.
Yeah.
But we couldn't do our job without the 4th gen fighters. We didn't buy enough Raptors, frankly.
Right.
Back when they canceled the program, one of the, in my opinion, biggest mistakes we made, and I think we have new modernization programs trying to get after that. But we didn't have enough F-22s to completely replace the F-15 fleet. Now we had hundreds and hundreds of F-15s. And now we have one of the smallest air forces ever, and we didn't buy enough of those. The F-15s are shutting down. 15C is shutting down, and they're sending a lot of those planes to the boneyard. But one of the coolest things we did was learn how to do integrated tactics with our F-15 brothers. And we really found the strengths of both platforms.
By working together.
And and in some cases I preferred them better than just working F-22s alone. Gave us some really cool capabilities if we trained and learned how to work together.
Has the F-35 done the same thing?
Yeah, all Air Force fighters, just by nature of having such a small force and the mission of each airplane, you all complement each other's mission. So no one's really better than the other. You know, F-22s, our mission is air-to-air. That is to clear the skies and make it safe for everybody else to fly, or protect our assets from being bombed or attacked by enemy forces. And then we have airplanes that are going to go out there with specific missions against surface-to-air missiles and anti-aircraft artillery.
I was going to ask this question later, but since we're talking about that air-to-air and protecting, you know, we have them in Alaska, we have them in Hawaii. One would argue that our biggest threat right now is China. I don't know about Russia. I was surprised about Ukraine and Russia, quite frankly. To me, I'm like, geez Louise, what do you guys, I thought you were stronger than this, but that's for another conversation. But it seems like there for a while, and it's always these decades that you kind of are in, they're all our friends. You know, we don't need F-22s. This is fine. Maybe we don't need them at all. Now it looks like, holy smokes, we absolutely needed them. It's so short-sighted, it seems sometimes, that our men in the suits make the decisions. It seems like more than ever, F-22s on each coast and everywhere that we need to have them, I don't think you could have too many.
Now, right now, there's an insatiable desire by the combatant commanders to have F-22s in their theater, and it
right?
It can really wear out the fleet, right? Because we don't have enough of them. And when that decision was made, when Gates was the Secretary of Defense, it really put us in a bad spot for where we're at today. Because you can't just build an F-22 in a month or a matter of days like we could when we were building B-24s and B-17s. The systems are too complicated. The materials are hard to procure. They're exquisite. Computer cards are a lot harder to build than a sheet metal with rivets.
Exactly.
And so we are going to pay that price. When Chief of Staff Mosley was in charge, and he was an adamant Raptor supporter, he had that long-range vision, and fought very hard for it. But
it just seems, from a layman's term, like, please, guys, just because today, this is not a problem.
And now we're stuck building
F-15EXs,
and we have to, because we don't have enough F-22s.
Exactly.
And we need some replacement iron. And it's just interesting how that plays out.
Okay, do you think that that because they've learned the lesson the hard way, that lesson will probably repeat itself in the future? Or, do you guys remember what happened in 2020s? We told you back then, we needed more. Let's not make that same mistake when we go forward.
Yeah, well,
even though we have peace.
I agree. And I would like to say, idealistically, yes, we would learn those lessons.
But history repeats itself, right?
Or if not, what is it, Mark Twain that says it sure does rhyme?
Yeah.
If it doesn't repeat itself. I mean, we had a lot of guys loved the F-111. It was a joint fighter, but it was not great at many of the things it was initially designed for. And we're trying to create this multi-service fighter to do all the things. And one of our strongest times in the Air Force was Desert Storm. We had F-15s air-to-air, Strike Eagles, air-to-ground, A-10s, excellent air-to-ground. Everybody had their mission that they could focus on and be really good at. And when you try and multi-roll that out for the sake of a cost, or I'm going to get more bang for this one, you begin to dilute the capability of being an expert in that mission. And that's why F-22s can rule the sky with F-15s, and A-10s are so great, and Strike Eagle is so great at air-to-ground, because that's their mission.
Right.
And being proficient and excellent at that mission, I think, is a key tenet that often gets lost when we try and create not only joint, but maybe international. They have all these compromises of design to field in all these requirements, and costs will explode, and they do every time.
Wow. Is it fair to think in terms of one Raptor versus 6 fifth-generation fighters?
You have to begin to look at, can the jet see everybody, find everybody that does a really good job? Do we carry enough stuff to take care of everybody we see?
Right.
Probably not. You're going to run out of ammo, run out of fuel. Your consumables is where you're going to end up finding your line.
So it's like, if I had the fuel and I had the weapons, I can take down as many people as I can see. We used
to have opportunities. We would do Red Flag Alaska, and let's say they wanted 8 F-22s, but we only had 4 to fly for that particular mission. Well, they'd let us go ahead and reload and simulate the other 4 F-22s, and that was just more fun than shooting fish in a barrel. You just get up there, and all of a sudden you're, okay, everybody reload. You get a whole another set and go out there and just start shooting, and it was awesome.
That sounds so
great. The
great.
aggressors hated it. They hated it. They'd come off of a airfield and just regenerated to become another adversary. And then they get shot down right away.
Take missiles out of it, go to guns.
Okay.
You're a gun guy. You like guns.
Yeah.
One Raptor. You've got all the pilots in the F-15 are you.
Okay. Well.
And then one.
Give them some more credit.
One is you.
They're better than me.
One is you in the F-22. So in other words, everyone's the same, but the platform's different.
Yeah.
It's you and your F-22 against how many guys in the F-15? Guns only, unlimited ammo. So now we're talking about based on what's the capability of the airplane?
Yeah, you're talking a lot of physics and geometry. You get enough of a swarm and someone
Obviously,
can come in and get you.
How many is no problem?
Because you can only turn so tight.
Yeah,
and if
yeah.
I do a backflip, it looks cool, but you're stalled and you're falling too, so you're predictable. So you have to balance that. The advantage of the F-15 is we have max afterburner. We got 35,000 pounds of thrust in each engine. F-15s are at 25,000 pounds. So 70 versus 50, what is that, 30% more power? So that's awesome. And you can, you have no angle of attack limit on the airplane because you can be fully controlled in a stalled. And when the wing does stall, it's much higher than what your fourth generation fighters are. So you have an amazing capability aerodynamically and power-wise to go after that. But and I was young in the F-15, so I never became as proficient, and I always had in awe of the weapons officers and the guys and the instructors that could fly that airplane so well, because it's so difficult to fly well. But they'd always see it going to a dogfight. You're approaching this dogfight, and you see each other. You got a radar cross section as big as a barn door. So that's awareness to the merge, we say. One guy's not able to sneak up on the other. And in these big exercises, I, in my young and was never that good in the F-15, after 2.5 years, never had a simulated gun kill in a big exercise like a red flag. But in the F-22, I had many within the first 6 months or within the first year of flying it. It's because they can't see us. So you can sneak up behind them and use the gun. And they have no idea you're there. And you just hide like the standard fighter pilot stuff. You come out of the sun, hide at the low 6 o'clock position. It's so hard to see. Get up close, make your simulated gunshot, and go off to the next guy. So it is, I use the gun way more often with my caveats in the F-22 than I ever did the F-15.
So I want an answer.
Well, let's see.
It's ManBear 5 years ago in the F-22. We'll just say 5 years ago. You've been out of the airplane now for just a
year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 years. Okay. Just go with whatever your strongest point was.
Okay.
Against how many ManBears in an F-15?
Boy.
1 versus 4?
If you have
no problem?
the same pilot flying
Correct.
each one, you probably got a good shot at 1v3, 1 versus 4.
Nice. That's all I wanted to hear.
That's all. You're getting to that one, Mike. You just wanted to hear it.
I wanted to hear it. All things being equal, because then we're taking the airplane as the focus, not the pilot.
Yeah. And
its capability is such that it's
absolutely.
a badass.
It is, like I said, worth every penny.
Which non-U.S. aircraft would be the toughest to fight in F-22?
Well, at that point, I'm not really going to say aircraft as much as the pilot at this point. That's a very complex question. I would say, if you look around the world and you see where fighter aviation is developing and who's been watching us to develop it quickly, and who tries to steal all our information and iterate it, and who comes to our universities to learn all of our stuff and take it home and build weapons that are used against us. Those capabilities in an economy that you can tell somebody what to do, and it's not a business model, in a sense, can develop technology rather quickly. And those capabilities have begun to iterate fairly quickly where it's concerning for us, and that's why we've gotten a lot of investment in the F-22 to try and keep up with that. So there are platforms that have gained in capability over the last 10, 20 years, and frankly, we don't want a fair fight. Anybody that has even a fight chance about the F-20, we don't want. No, we don't.
No,
we
that's
don't
the
want
goal,
to
to
go
stay
into a
advanced.
ring with somebody with both hands up and its eyes open. No, we're going to make it as unfair as we possibly can to make sure that we can keep our risk low and meet our mission objectives.
Is that a fair answer from my perspective?
That's as close as you're going to get until you go out
Is
and
that a fair
read other
answer?
stuff.
Does China have any 5th generation airplanes?
I think so. Yeah, they have them on. You can read all about them on their open source.
Okay.
They're trying to achieve it, and how they define 5th gen and knowing what those airplanes can do in any country that wants to develop that technology.
Right.
You can dive into it, and we have folks that probably try and look at that.
Right. From what you know about the Chinese military, let's just use them as an example. Do they fly a lot?
Well, that's probably going to have to come from different analysis. It's outside the scope of this podcast. So
Gotcha.
If you're interested in that,
because
do
I
some
know that
Google
the
searches.
Israelis fly a lot. Like that's just a known thing.
Yeah.
That they fly a lot, right? So
but flying, that's a tough. I have a decent answer for that. Flying a lot in fighter aviation does not mean that the quality of the sortie is what you need.
Okay.
So if you just fly a lot, yeah, that's pilot training. T6s, T38s. You can practice your landings, you up and down, but unless you have systems that are going to give you that capability that you can use to complete your mission, and you fully integrate into that, and you fully debrief your performance with those systems, so it's more quality than quantity.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the one thing every F-22 pilot struggles with at first, and it takes the longest to master? You were an instructor on the airplane.
Very fortunate to teach in it for 15 years.
Yeah.
Most guys get frustrated by not being able to perform at the level they want to in their mind right away. So you come in and you're like, I know how to do all this. I get it. And then you don't perform that way. This is why you can't just use simulation, because there's no fear of death in simulation. You have to get
in the airplane.
In the air, feel the G's, have the sweat, have the mask, have the oxygen, have all the human factors that are going into performance affect you. Being dehydrated, 10% can affect 50% of your G tolerance.
Wow.
All those little things, and to be scared at night when you're making a huge vertical maneuver so fast. And am I blacking out? I don't know. Everything's black and green anyway. So you can read everything about doing it, but your body's not going to respond as quick. And so teaching guys to be patient with themselves and learn a little bit every day, take those 3 top things away from the debrief that might have lasted 4 or 6 hours, and then try and make those 3 things better the next time, and then make those 3 things better.
So it's the same thing. Essentially what I'm hearing you say is the new guys that come in, they're motivated.
Oh, yeah.
They're ready to go. Maybe they came from a different platform where they were already at 100%, and so they're just like, all right, I want to turn this jet on and let's just go. Let's get at it. Let me take myself from 100% to the next level. And they're really starting off like, holy crap, I'm a newbie.
Yeah, I made these mistakes. I thought I wouldn't make those mistakes, and that's just to fly your airplane. That doesn't include being a flight lead and giving a 65-minute tactical brief. People can write out their brief and figure out what they're going to say, and then they get up in front of a crowd, and they get the words to come out of the old Bible. Can't do it. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice and iteration. And then it's not just about being a 2-ship flight lead. It's about being a 4-ship flight lead. So now you're in charge of all these other jets while you're flying yours. And then it's not being about that. It's about being an instructor where you're flying your jet, but making sure you know what's going on in that jet.
Right.
And then as being a mission commander in charge of the entire maybe 40 jet package that's going in to meet some mission objectives, and you're in charge of, hey, are the refuelers showing up on time? Are the bombers where they should be? Is everybody deconflicted in altitude? So did we lose anybody on takeoff, meaning they didn't show up? Am I in forces while you're flying your jet on night vision goggles and refueling and doing all that? So it takes years to get there. 10 years. It takes 8 to 10 years before you really, I think, find yourself at the top of that game.
How long would you say your average F-22 pilot takes to say, I feel comfortable in the F-22? From the time they get in the jet, the real jet for the first time, and they say, okay, I finally feel comfortable flying the jet. Because every airplane is different.
I said that after my first year, and then the next year I said, boy, I really am comfortable now.
Okay.
I didn't know what I didn't know before.
But you would say what you did, so really the answer would be about a year.
No, I say where I see guys really start to pick up the situational awareness, you need to see, think, and then do. at a rate that you need to at that airspeed. We'll pick up when most of our guys go into their 4-ship flight lead upgrade. So it's near the end of their first assignment, so somewhere around the 2.5, 3 year mark.
No way, man. Mm-hmm. Really?
Oh, yeah.
How does that compare to an F-15?
Same. It's same.
Really? So no
it's
different.
just how long it takes to learn all of this information.
I got you.
Yeah, it's a load of information, and not only just knowing it, but you got to be able to perform at it. And maybe you're flying 3 times a week, or you don't revisit that mission often because you got all these other training tasks and evolving. And it is an interesting capability. I mean, you may only have, after 3 years, gosh, you may only have, 10, 20 of a certain type of mission by that point. So.
Okay, so I was told once by an F-22 guy. Actually, this is a good story. This is a funny story. So I'm flying with this guy. He's a 140. He's a C-17 guy. He's married to his F-22 wife, and he told me this story like this. Yeah, he said, "Hey, babe, how was your flight today?" Well, I was at 0 airspeed for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
As a pilot, in anything you've ever flown, you're like, no, come on, what? Tell me. So, explain to the listener what that's like. You mentioned it earlier in the conversation about the fact that you can be at a 0 airspeed, you can be in a stalled condition, but you're still in control.
Right.
How incredible, one, does it feel? How empowering does that feel? And then, is it just as a third, vectored thrust, flight control ability combined together that gives you that ability to do so?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. So you may be indicating 0 airspeed.
Right.
But you're never not moving.
Okay.
So it feels like we're sitting right here much of the time, but I could look at my vertical velocity and see negative 4,000 feet per minute.
Gotcha.
And it feels like sitting here and I could see 0 knots. I think one of the coolest flight situations that I saw was I was going out here fighting another F-22 buddy of mine. We had a dogfighting fighting mission to go do. A high aspect, we call it, which is where you kind of about 3 miles away and you point at each other and you cross at about 1,000 miles an hour and start your fight. And he goes into the vertical plane and I follow him. We got a lot of power, so come down again, still chasing him around, and he goes up again. And below about 300 knots in there, if you are pulling full back on the stick, commanding full pitch, that's when the thrust vectoring will blend in to pitch control. So the airplane appears to just kind of backflip right there. That's how you get that nose around pretty quick, but you're fully stalled. But the inertia is carrying you forward. So we had this one, and your listeners might enjoy this, and they can hit pause after this before I describe it, or after I describe it before I give the solution. Is that, okay, you're at, here's your flight solution, and show me with your hand what attitude you're in. So you're at 0 knots, a 90 degrees angle of attack, positive EVI, and 45 degrees nose low. And what's your attitude?
Can you show us with this?
I'll use my hand instead.
Okay.
So, just because you flip the nose around on one of these backflips doesn't mean you don't have 60,000 pounds of inertia still going. So, thrust vectoring just means you're pivoting around your center of gravity. That's why you don't do it at high speeds. You'll just rip an airplane apart. You're doing standard flight control laws at that time. So, airplane goes up, decides to thrust vector, flips around on pitch. The airplane's still moving up.
Yep.
The relative wind is here. He's positive EVI. They're just not moving forward, so 0 knots, and he's 45 degrees nose low. So that's about the only airplane I know that can do that.
It's just...
But then you have to be very cognizant that you're stalled, and that the only place you go after going up is going down. And so you need to get energy back on that airplane and get it back to what we call pre-stall, or flying like a normal airplane, to start moving around and start your next attack. So that's that energy management we talk about. It's how much do I want it to be potential energy and how much do I want it to be kinetic energy moving around a geometric circle.
So explain to me, when an airplane departs, explain that to the listener, what that means when an airplane departs, And can an F-22 truly depart?
I love this because it's a nice segue into this. Airplanes can depart controlled flight in any variation of ways, and that definition is it departing controlled flight when you do a spin on a spin-approved airplane? I don't know, you're just in a spin and then you recover. In the F-15, it would be if you coupled the multiple axes of motion. So, or for example, in the T-38, I think a prohibitive maneuver was no more than 720 degrees of roll, 2 full rolls in less than a second. Itty bitty wing, you just slam the stick to the side here. But if there gets to be a wobble in it, then you can couple and could tumble you. Like a football will get wobbly and tumble. That is the edge of going uncontrolled or departing controlled flight. So there were indications in the F-15 that if you really tried to get that jet to twist around, it'd give you a beep, 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 and it'd say, hey, that's a departure. You don't go into that to keep you safe. The F-22 approached it differently. They wrote all the flight control laws with many degrees of freedom. So that means an equation very complex. You get a lot of finesse in that. Okay. A lot of detail. Whereas it won't let the jet get to a point where it goes out of control. So if I'm doing a pure yaw maneuver, so if I'm falling out of the sky and I push on the pedal, I don't call it the rudder pedal because I may not move the rudder, but I command pure yaw on the airplane. And maybe I command 50 degrees per second of yaw. And as I'm falling, the jet's now moving its stabs to give me yaw as it twists around. But it's only going to get up to a certain point. You can kind of feel the jet ratchet. And if you look at an air show and you see the Raptor doing that, what looks like a flat spin, you'll see the note, maybe it goes fast and it'll slow down. And that's the flight control laws keeping us from getting to a regime
that will
where
take you
it
there.
could couple and you could go and depart controlled flight.
Very interesting.
So although, I mean, leave it to a pilot, the original -1 of the F-22, I think, used to say, no prohibited maneuvers, operate with carefree abandon.
No kidding.
They were so confident in that. Now leave it to pilots. We found a couple ways to get it into a balance and control laws. They've had to make a few modifications, but the jet will fall like an airplane falls, but some new guys will say, oh, I departed controlled flight. I have never seen that since the modifications were made 15 years ago. Wow. It will always recover and always fly like it should. And
it just awesome. Sounds like it's just such a joy to fly.
Yeah, it is a pure extension of your will. Now, physics still plays a part, but you can do so much in it, especially once you learn. The F-15 would talk to you really loud. Okay. It'd shake, and you get into the buffet area, and when you're getting close to stall, or there's a high aerodynamic cue on the wing, you can feel it really getting into it. The F-22 is subtle. She just whispers to you. Really? But if you can pick out that whisper at the different airspeed levels, then she'll tell you how to keep an extra 10 or 20 knots on it so easily.
And that takes a lot of time in the airplane to get to that point.
Yeah, you have to learn how to hear the whisper. Yep.
That's so cool. Yeah. Gosh, I love that. I love that. Okay, what's the fastest you've ever been in the F-22?
Mach 2.
What's the highest altitude you've ever been in the F-22?
60,000. Of course, that's our ceiling.
Do you feel invincible when you fly the F-22?
On a good day, yes. I'd say there's 3 missions I can look back on. As an instructor with over 10 years of experience, where I was leading the force, and I could say, we never get to perfect, but as close as I've ever been, and I thought on each of those maybe 3 days, I bet I was the best there was in the world on that day.
Really?
Right? That day, I was King Kong. I know it. It felt good. It clicked. Everything came together. And then that next day, I went out and did some dogfighting with a buddy of mine, and he kicked my ass. And he gunned me. So you can word up, but if you don't fly for a while, you can lose those skills because they atrophy. But the best thing is having a fellow instructor and you guys just make each other better every day, and then you find that your atrophy is a lot less over time. And you're just he has a bad day, you have a good day, or you both have a really good day, and then you find those extra little things to do, and that is what I call fighter pilot nirvana. Is when you have those fights with somebody who is at the same level and you're both operating at that high level.
So this is an interesting question that just came to my mind. I'm thinking about the whole, Top Gun. you leave your squadron, you go to Top Gun, you're fighting in your airplane that is capable as it was in the fleet. You go to Red Flag, let's say. Where do you go as an F-22 guy to literally up the ante? Because what you just told me was, I'm going to up the ante when I'm with a fellow instructor, 1v1 in an F-22, or maybe a few of them. But I don't think I can go to a school and fly an F-16 and maybe up from a BFM standpoint. So do you do it at the squadron level, or do you do it at those tactical schools if you're not in the same airplane?
Right. No, we build everybody up in a typical Air Force fighter squadron. We do all of our upgrades in-house. So flight lead, wingman, flight lead, all these iterations up to instructor. And once you get to instructor, you're eligible to apply to the Air Force's version of Top Gun, which we call Weapons School.
Okay.
And I think Top Gun's about a 4-month course. Weapons School is a 6-month course. So we call it gets you your doctorate in mastery of instructing and operating your airplane that you go to, and that's down at Nellis Air Force Base. And that is designed to be very challenging, to push you through the ringer and develop your skills to a very high level. And so that's the Air Force's version. And when guys graduate that, they'll get the weapons school patch.
Yep.
Like Top Gun gets the Top Gun patch, and then they go back to the squadron to be the chief instructor. They're going to bring the new tactics, techniques, and procedures back. They're going to take on the role of working in the weapons shop and guiding the squadron for that next 1.5 or 2 years.
Do you need, though, when you go to the weapons school, do you need that instructor to be an F-22 guy?
Yeah, and everybody is in their own
pocket
platform.
Okay.
F-22,
that makes
and there's
perfect
instructors
sense.
there, and they teach you F-22 one.
There's the answer
That's
there.
right.
Okay, that's good.
You don't do cross stuff. You'll do big missions together, but you're not going to cross instruct.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was just thinking in terms of, okay, I've got this incredible instructor, tactics and so forth, so on, but he's not an F-22 guy, and so how can he teach me the same things that I have the capability in F-22 to do?
That's
but
right.
that makes sense.
And
that makes
this guy
sense.
or girl is going to come back and be your weapons officer, and their job is not going to be to teach the brand new guy.
It's to teach the instructors that are there that haven't gone.
Because one of those guys, if he doesn't have a solid instructor cadre with him, because time, space, opportunities to go to weapons school, the best weapons officers that I've seen develop a strong and fun instructor cadre and competent instructor cadre that they then rally around to teach the rest of the squadron.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I love that. Can you tell me what your favorite thing about the F-22 is?
Oh, man. Gosh. This is going to sound kind of cheesy, but I think about it a lot because I have so much respect and awe for the people that developed the technology to build it. What I think about the coolest thing about the F-22 is the thousands of lifetimes of knowledge that went into building it. And just material science. Somebody's chemistry doctoral paper talked about one thing that unlocked another. That allowed us to create the paint for this, or the stealth shape for this, or the ability to have semi-rigid cabling in the jet that's space grade that protects our signals from minus 50 degrees to 100 degrees, and the engineers that figured out the math to do it. So, and it's not just usually one engineer. It is just I'm probably underselling it. It's probably tens of thousands of lifetimes of technology.
So it's just the science behind it is that really is your favorite
thing.
thing.
And how many people love working on the F-22? That it's just a pride and joy of it was such a big step up, and it's so perfect in its role.
What then, from the pilot perspective, if I'm going to take you out of your cheesy answer, your favorite thing about the F-22? Like, in my mind, the answer I'm looking for, and this might not be the correct answer.
No, this is fine. There's multiple ways to look at this.
It's by far, it's the maneuverability. It's by far its ability. That type of an answer. What's your favorite thing?
There's so many freaking things. Man, Mike, it's funny that's the hardest question that I think you've asked me today. Of all the things as the pilot, man, I don't even know if it's just one. I don't even know if I can narrow it down to one thing because it sells it so short. The stealth part of it's amazing.
It's nice to not be seen.
Yeah, because it buys us time to make our decisions what we need to do and gives us that little bit of an edge to give me a factor of safety in my
I love
tactics.
that. That's a good answer, though, because
Yeah.
I would have thought about maneuverability. I would have, but when it comes down to it, when I want to go home at the end of the day, or I want to have that unfair advantage that you talked about, obviously it's the stealth aspect. If I can sneak up on you and just stab you, as opposed to, all right, let's go. I mean, this is an unfair fight. I want to go home at night.
Yeah. Well, for the F-15,
that's a great answer.
For the F-15, it was built. I like this saying. I coined this saying just a couple months ago. The A-10 was built around its gun. F-15 was built around its radar, and the F-22 was built around its antennas, in a shape that gives us that stealth. But the F-15, looking back when it would train against the F-4, and that step up from third to fourth generation, and that radar allowed him to see. So if I was in the F-15, I would have said, my answer would have been, man, that radar.
Right.
Because I don't worry about being seen. I worry about seeing him first.
Then I can
shoot him first, so I can identify him, and
right.
that gives me that factor of safety in my tactics. But then the world observed that for 40 years of complete superiority, and they chased it and tried to find parity, and so we had to develop the next best thing.
Yeah. What is your least favorite thing about the F-22? This is going to be a difficult.
Oh, do I choose that I want more missiles or more fuel? I would say more fuel. I wish I had more fuel.
Nice. Which I was actually just reading, so this isn't classified. I was just reading about this in Aviation Week and Space Technology. I believe they're calling it Raptor 2.0, which I was going to get into you. Is it true that they're going to do something to increase the range by 40%, whether it was some external thing that was going to take them there? Is there any?
I think the pictures show that there's going to be some external fuel tanks to be looked at.
Okay. So that's a kind of it's going to get you there. I don't know if it's going to get you home. Maybe a tanker will get you home, but it could get you there to the fight, do what you need to do, and then get far enough away that you can tank and get home.
Yeah,
I guess.
Fuel's a big thing there. Yeah.
Is the F-22, it's a super cruiser, right? So it has the ability to not be in burner and go Mach 1.5 or something. Is that like no other airplane in the world?
I think there have been I heard some of my buddies that fly F-16s, the Big Mouth Block 30, if they clean that thing off, it can super cruise.
Okay.
Because there's very low drag. Now, the difference is that's not their combat configuration. The F-22 combat configuration is
what you
clean,
see.
just like we see it. So it's just the amount of drag that is not there that allows the airplane to be so smooth.
And it's such a neat combination with you look at it and it just looks like everything is making it be a flying wing, but then you have all this thrust at the same time. I mean, it's such an interesting shape. It's such an interesting shape. I love the shape of the airplane. There's so much area to it when you look at it. And that's creating a lot of lift, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is going to reduce the amount of power that you're going to need because you have so much lift. It's just an incredibly sexy, unbelievable, so proud to be an American airplane.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
beautiful airplane designed around one mission to go after that. And so they could take they had a lot more design flexibility in that because they weren't so constrained with multi-missions. So that allowed them to focus on those efficiencies.
It's super cool that it was. When was it thought up? In the late 80s?
I don't know. I don't know when the Air Force announced its Fighter Next program, and it was between the X-22 and F-23. Before they just selected them. So I know it's somewhere around the mid 80s. I don't remember when the fly came out. Early 90s.
I feel like we were in the right decade for it to happen.
Yeah.
For those decisions and money to say, okay, let's do it and let's do it right.
Well, I mean, I saw some of the original modules that went into the computer that have since been upgraded, and the processing chips on these modules had to be hardwired in, and not just soldered in like you'd think of a computer chip, but wired in still. And the only way you could reprogram that was to build a whole nother one with a different wire going to a different connector. And it's just amazing what we figured out and were able to iterate even, and those modules were replaced, maybe 8-10 years later. So what the technology had progressed to in that time, where you can have a reprogrammable computer chip or programmable computer chip was amazing.
It's amazingly exciting to think about where we are now with AI and on the precipice of quantum computing and what that's really going to mean for the following next generation, even beyond what's probably a sixth, but the seventh generation airplane, what that means. It's mind-blowing is what it is.
Yeah, if we develop, just ManBear's opinion here, if we develop new power sources, whether it's small nuclear technology or something like that, but if you can, that will begin to open doors to all sorts of things.
Oh, and it will.
Yeah.
That will happen. It's a matter of time. There's zero doubt that will happen. But what will that really mean?
What will it mean?
What will it mean? Incredible. How different is the F-22 today than when it first came out? Like if you were to say, it's 80% different than it is when it first came out. Can't give you any details, but it's 80% different. Is there a number you could put on it?
That's a tough one. You know, the airframe is mostly the same. It's your standard airframe structure. The tech that is below it is always changing. And I never flew those early generation ones.
I'm sure you know guys that did.
Test, right? And our training fleet was still the earliest models. That's perfect where they sit as training airplanes. Gosh, I think, and it's the same as the F-15 that came out. Well, the F-15 I left flying to go to the F-22 was not the same F-15 that was developed early on in its first 5 to 10 years. So, I don't know, maybe airframe alone is pretty much 90% the same.
Has stealth changed at all? The materials used, the paint used, has that changed from the beginning?
There's probably been a lot of development and thoughts in that.
Nice. Probably, as he says. Love it.
And there's a lot of new airplanes that we're building too that have hopefully newer technology on it for that way.
Right.
Because you're always learning. So if I say it's not getting better, you should be disappointed as a taxpayer, because that means we're not learning from what we've done before.
For sure.
But if we're always iterating, you should expect that statistically the airplane will be getting better.
Can you share with us any sort of upgrades for the Raptor 2.0 in what it will become compared to what it was?
Absolutely not. No, I say that jokingly. There's, I think Aviation Week and what you see as your open source materials are a good way to keep up on Raptor if you want. But
right. What's that famous line?
You don't want us getting shot down,
I could tell you, but
I'd have to kill you.
So that question, you said earlier, it's probably 75-80% of the Raptor you cannot talk about.
Yeah, that's fair. Remember, everybody wants to be us.
I get that.
Yeah.
It hasn't been sold to other countries.
Correct.
Probably the only airplane. I don't think we've sold any B-52s to any other countries.
Or the A-10.
Or the A-10.
We wouldn't even sell the A-10 to the Marines and the Army when they want it.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Awesome airplane.
What's cool about, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but it's really, I don't know if I'd call this cool, but it is what it is, right? We have these skirmishes, we have these wars, we have these incidents that happen around the world. Politically, Iran is going on right now. It's amazing what comes out, decision-wise, when these things happen. All of a sudden, the A-10 is got more life breathed into it. All of a sudden, and we talked about this earlier about the F-22 and just look at China, look at Russia, but it's amazing. It's almost dead, and then something happens, and bam, we just extended it by 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. Yeah,
and it's a phase-based approach. The most common argument I hear against the A-10 is, well, it's not survivable in the modern theater of war with the advancements in surface-to-air missiles and such. And I said, well, it wasn't designed to be. That's why you phase in any attack mission. First, you sweep the skies and make them safe. And then you go in and you start pushing back anything that's going to shoot at you from the ground.
Right.
And part of that calculus has to be, we have to accept some losses in warfare. We've always had it. We can't go completely zero because that's going to be unaffordable. The unobtainium, it was never meant, just the cost per what you get back. So there's a cost to war and there's a cost to these airplanes, and we're all volunteers to fly these fighters, so we know that. But you look at one of the most survivable airplanes, if not the most survivable airplane we have. An airplane with a huge gun built in with a pilot sits in a titanium bathtub. So when those guys got to get in to do that dirty work, and they got to get in close and help with the ground fight and push back some of these avenues or areas we need to go into, we need persistence. They're great on fuel, they're survivable on the ground, and those pilots are so good we can get after it. So it is a necessary and, to me, ManBear's opinion, an essential piece of the fight. It may not be day one, but it's going to be there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, instructor and first flight. That's what I'm calling this little section
All
here.
right.
You're an instructor on the F-22. There's no two-seat versions. So your new Raptor pilot is in a simulator approximately for how long before they actually get into that jet the very first time? And then what's that look like for a new student? Your first flight, you take off, you head out. What do you do? What do you do that first flight?
You say, please, Lord, don't let me mess this up the whole time, because you're flying a national asset around.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact number of simulators you got to do now before. There's somewhere between 30, 40, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Can't say exactly. There's a series of academics that happens for the first several weeks too,
Sure.
while you're going through the simulators before they even go out to the jet. And then when you go out to the jet the first time, at least when I was going through it, you had to do an engine run first.
Oh, really?
Get out there, get suited up, climb in, an instructor's on the microphone with you, and you start it, go through your checklist, and then shut it down. And that's your event for the day.
That's your first one. Okay.
Yeah, make sure you didn't mess anything up. All the questions are asked. It's not hard on the flight line. Doesn't have an instructor sitting in a jet just waiting for
Sure.
the wingman to get ready. But you know, your instructor's the flight lead. The wingman already knows how to be a wingman. He's already been in the pilot training. He's already passed Introduction to Fighter Fundamentals, which tests the basic ability of someone to do stuff in the air with an airplane other than just fly it, but begin to fight. So that weeds some people out. And then so you already know the basics of formation. You've already passed all that. So now it's just flying an airplane. So you just follow your parameters on takeoff, and it's, like I said, it's a very beautiful airplane to fly. You get up into the air, and then you're going to just start going through what we call our advanced handling characteristics. You're going to go through a series of maneuvers to learn how the airplane flies. And that includes some of your standard aerobatics. What's it like to roll it? What's it like to do a loop? What's it like to pull G's in it? What's it like to do the pedal turn where it looks like it's flat spinning? All of the things of just flying an airplane. And the instructor will fly alongside his chase, in a chase position, while the student, and sometimes the instructor will demonstrate one, and they'll just go into that for the first shot.
So wild, dude.
And then you start right into your instrument flying. You'll start on, okay, how are you going to take this airplane from here to there and do it single pilot, and that's your, begins your instrument proficiency training. Can you fly an ILS? Can you fly a TACAN approach? Can you do all those basic things?
You're on his wing as he's demonstrating.
So
all
what
this?
we'll do is we'll say, okay, we're going to go out to the airspace. We're going to go do all our maneuvers.
Yep.
And then as the flight lead, you're the wingman. You're going to get on my wing, and we're going to start going to maybe home airfield or another airfield.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say, okay, I want you to take us to Eglin Air Force Base and set up for an ILS. This has all been briefed. Climb out, come back around and do a TACAN
You've
approach.
practiced this stuff in the sim, though.
Right, but in the brief before we fly, he knows exactly what to expect. I'm not just throwing this on him. So then I pass him the lead, the student the lead, and he's got wings on his chest. He graduated pilot training. He should be able to talk to air traffic control lead, and I follow him as a chase ship, basically, and make sure that we don't have altitude deviations, that he doesn't need help, and that's our mutual support is. And in the airliner, we're sitting next to each other, helping each other out. Well, we're just in two different planes. We're still mutual support.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That'll last just kind of the typical fighter thing, an hour or so.
Yeah.
As far as, okay.
Yeah.
And then you head back in, and they'll do typically how many of those? Now you're ramping it up, of course, before, all right, you're done, you're ready. Like I can, you can start going
it's like
out.
4 or 5 flights, and then we start introducing basic fighter maneuvers.
Okay.
Now it's getting into the high G dogfighting
Okay.
under very strict conditions.
And this
we
could
build
have
up to
been
it.
guys coming out of the T-38 fresh.
It can now. We call them Raptor babies.
Raptor
because they never
babies.
flew anything first.
Okay.
And the Air Force had to develop towards that point.
Right.
Because you can't just keep harvesting talent from other fighter communities. because there's a lot of investment that goes into training each pilot for each platform.
And you've seen both sides of that coin.
Yep. I prefer a squadron that I like the young guys coming up that know Raptor and they can develop that knowledge for an entire career. But just wagging it there, I really think a Raptor squadron's stronger if they have 30% of their guys that have flown something else to come in, mainly an air-to-air or type fighter like that had an airborne radar, because they understand what it's like to be on the other side and how hard it is as 4th Gen and what their limits are. Because the Raptor can help out that whole team with increasing everybody's situational awareness. A quick radio call at the right time can save one of your fighter bros' butt in a situation where he didn't know there was a bandit behind him or something like that. And the Raptor gives us that awareness. So it's nice to have someone who has flown another fighter.
It makes me go into an airline mode of thinking of who would I rather have brought to the airlines as a new hire, a guy that had this amount of experience and it's more on the job training, or a guy with this amount of experience and you just bring all that knowledge that you already have into this new platform, into this new airplane. Yeah. Is it the same frame of mind? As an instructor, it's like, well, if I could choose, or is there just it's a longer path, but it's nice to bring a Raptor baby in? You kind of mentioned it, but in a perfect world, it seems as if bring a 4th generation dude in and
you really need both.
Really?
Because that 4th generation guy's, if he's good at his game, he's going to have 5 years experience he's bringing along. But that community also just lost 5 years experience. And they have to train somebody new. And that takes time and money.
I got you.
So, and we're such a small community in the F-22 that you don't want to steal from everybody else. So it is finding the balance of it too, because let's say we do bring in a guy with F-15 or F-16 experience and they're active duty. Well, they come in as a captain or a major and they're getting close to the Air Force's job of putting them behind a desk somewhere too. So there's a lot. They're going to have like 5 years there before, but they're never going to get that 10-year base knowledge that your Raptor baby or your new guy's going to have. They hate it when I call them Raptor babies.
I love it. That's part of the game,
part
baby.
of the game.
That's part of the game.
They're lucky to be there.
They are. So with that being said, what do you think is the biggest challenge? In the airline world, if I instruct, I can pretty much tell you right off of bat, if there's 10 things, this is where most new guys are going to have issues. It's just always the same. It just is what it is. As a Raptor baby comes in, where are most of the problems going to lie?
And we all have that.
Yeah,
it was just so funny because
most everybody
my
does.
Instructors used to joke when I was a new guy. I still remember them saying it. They're like, I'm just going to write your grade sheet before we go take off. I'd be like, that's bullshit. You don't know what I'm going to do.
That's
don't know.
Funny.
And then we come back and I'd be like, damn, they said don't do that 3 times and I still did it.
I love it.
And I still remember the day where as an instructor, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to brief this part 10 times and it's still going to get messed up. And sure enough, it would. I said, there it is. I finally reached that level where you can write the grade sheet before you go fly.
What is that?
Within an 80% confidence value.
What is that in the Raptor?
It's usually when task saturation happens. So you're learning how to think at this speed where you've got 10 switches on the stick and you've got another 10 on the throttle. Yeah. And they all have sub-functions in your screen. And we always go back to that aviate, navigate, communicate from day one.
Sure.
And so when they stop talking, they're getting task saturated in the tactical environment. Or they mess up some communications. They say the wrong thing. Or they miss shooting their group or who they're supposed to target. And so you can see these things begin to happen, but commonly, I would say it just depends on the mission itself. Going in and shooting too many missiles on the first push because you're like so excited. You're like, I see everybody, and then you go bam, 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 bam. You're out of ammunition for the rest of the fight, and you're supposed to be the guy that's sitting back there, chilling out, helping everybody else out that when they get into a bad position.
So that's a common newbie thing.
Misassessing, but it's more nuanced than that. We really would dive into our tactics, like misassessing range. you're supposed to do something at 20 or 40 or I don't know, pick a number, miles, and you don't, and you do it late. Why? Because you did not compute or look at that you were at this range, and that means you do this thing. And that, that happens on, ILSs, when do you put your gear out? What
For
range?
sure.
And you miss that. So it is the same, but the nuances are sometimes hard to describe. But yeah, we can figure out that they're going to call fights on late on a dogfight, or they're going to brake too hard, which means pull off more energy off the airplane. They're going to get slow, and then to get over that, they're going to get even slower and fall down. And all you have to do is go up and wait for them to fall, and then you come down and shoot them. So, yeah, you see these things somewhat often.
I love it.
Yeah, but then they learn quick too. The nice thing about this community is and we've all been there too as instructors. So, it's nice it helps us be better instructors because we know what it's like to go through that. But we're able to accelerate their learning too.
I will say this has been a fun thing for me to experience at the airlines in both the simulator world and as a line check pilot in the airplane. When a fighter pilot comes to training and they make that mistake, they very rarely make it again. I noticed that as a difference between the fighter pilot and other guys. Not to say that is, but it's fairly consistent. They will make a mistake and then they just get it the second time. If it's the second time they miss it, they're not going to screw up a third time. And so it's funny to see the fighter guy come into the training environment, into a new environment, like our friend came in, and he starts on the 7.5, and it is just so frustrating because it's such a different world from the fighter world to the airline world. And it's just not making sense. And to see a Raptor guy fail so hard is hilarious, but man, the learning curve is vertical, and it doesn't happen long, but it's a humility, it's a humbling that happens, and I see it consistently with fighter guys. Yeah, you'll make the mistake, but man, you figure it out and you learn it. Just like you kind of said, you pull too hard, you drop. I'm not going to make that one again. You learn quick.
And we teach our guys to write down their trends, to become self-aware, to identify their own trends. So if I miss it once, but I miss it again, that goes on my note card. And that's what I study, because that's my trend. It may not be yours, but that's what my mind is missing. So I'm going to come up with a kicker to remember that. Kind of like a kicker. So you learn how to teach yourself learn faster, and you find those techniques that work for you. But we make people handwrite things down. That's really where it writes into the mind.
That's good.
Don't type it, handwrite it, and then review it.
How long is a debrief generally?
It depends on the mission. I once debriefed a 90-second dogfight for 2.5 hours.
No kidding.
Yeah, because you're watching tapes like you do on professional sports. I go back and watch the plays. We do it, and we pick it apart.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what makes us so good, is there's no rank in the debrief. We have a guy who's leading it, clearly, and there's a order of who talks when, but there's no rank, and there's no dumb questions as you try and learn together.
That's great.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned the airline thing, because we have our roles in fighters. So you have even as an instructor, if I fly as a wingman, there are contracts that I do as a wingman. I don't do flight lead stuff. I do wingman stuff. My job is to be the best wingman in that role. And it took me a while to realize in the airlines that it's just different roles between captain and first officer. You just have to know that role and then be excellent in what those duties are. But I didn't even know what an autopilot was or how it worked coming to the airlines. And the little non-cardboard trainer where things turn on, but there's no controller. I'd go sit there and practice my flows to learn the checklist flows and the reasons why. And I crashed that thing like 4 times. And I was like, what is going on? And I was so pissed. And I'm going back, and I go back to the hotel room. I'm in the shower just kind of mad at myself. And I realized I made a connection there that I thought the flight directors was the autopilot. Turn on the flight director, little thing comes on. I thought that was the autopilot. That was it. Because all we have, an F-15 and F-22 is just an attitude and altitude hold. We don't have any fancy autopilot. Everything's 99% of what we do is hand flown. And you're not invested in navigation systems. You're investing in tactical systems,
exactly.
right? So I had to learn the difference between flight director and autopilot at that time. I just had no idea.
It is funny stuff. It is really funny to watch the beginnings of a fighter guy come to the airlines. It is Absolutely entertaining.
I'm glad. You can write that grade sheet before we even
Oh,
go
you
into the
can
mission,
write
Mike.
it like it's a tattoo.
Yeah.
Okay, so you flew the F-22 out of Hawaii.
Yep.
Any other places that you flew it out of?
Yeah. I started up in Alaska.
Okay. You were in F-15s and then you went to the F-22 up
F-22s,
there?
Yep. So I was up there for 5 years.
Is that when their guard transfer?
That was still all active duty.
Okay.
So Air Force Academy, you go to pilot training. When you graduate and you get your wings, you have a 10-year commitment to the Air Force.
Okay.
Active duty, which is totally fair because it's so expensive.
For sure.
That is a great job.
Yep.
I mean, my dad said, don't go to the airlines, you're going to be bored. I'm like, what do I do? He said, you go fly airplanes, you can't pay enough money to fly.
Oh, I love it.
Or you go on this adventure while you're at the age and capability where you can go do this and then you have those great experiences. So I took that route. 10 years, 5 of them were up in Elmendorf. A couple years down here, active duty in Hawaii, teaching the squadron how to fly as they were transitioning from F-15s to F-22s.
Okay. So you kind of stood it up, the F-22.
In that
as
sense,
an instructor.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a group of really great instructors. So it was such a fun squadron to be at the time. And then I went over to Langley Air Force Base and flew in the squadron over there, the 94th, Eddie Rickenbacker's old squadron.
Wow.
Very famous squadrons there. And that's where I ended my active duty commitment, was coming to an end, and got approached by some of my buddies here in the Guard, asking if I'd come back and join the Hawaii Guard. And here's where the F-22s are actually owned by the Guard unit. The other Guard and Reserve units associate with the active duty squadrons, and here it's a little bit more independent.
Why is that?
Just how they...
Politically, how they did it?
Yeah, there just weren't enough Raptors, and so the Guard and Reserve have a place in all the F-22 squadrons, but there weren't enough to give them their own separate squadrons like we have on the F-15 and F-16 side.
Gotcha.
So yeah, then it was out here, and I've been in the Hawaii Guard since 2014.
When you were in Alaska and you transitioned to the F-22, was that a decision you made? I want to go fly it? Or did you get assigned it? Or, because a lot of times you hear both ways.
Yeah, I wanted it. We all wanted to fly it.
Okay.
If you're an air-to-air guy flying the F-15, the F-15 is awesome. But you, deep inside, want to go fly the Raptor. Because you can be even better.
Of course.
And what's better than being okay? Be better.
Oh, yeah.
And but we were kind of in an F-22 or bust situation. There was in my opinion, terrible Air Force policy at the time.
Okay.
They were canceling F-22s, but then they started, it was called the TAMI 21 initiative, and it came down from on high.
Who's freaking Tammy?
Yeah, TAMI. It was a total aircrew management initiative. What it did was, the policy was, any young fighter guy that's been on station the longest amount of time and has less than 500 hours, the number 1 or number 2 guy, they're going to rip you out of your fighter and send you over to go fly UAVs. Because they wanted to do all that support. So we called it Operation Old Yeller. Because if it wasn't you, they're going to take your best friend out behind the barn and shoot him and rip him out of the fighters, everything he worked so hard to do and all of his motivation and everything. So
stressful time.
That was happening, and at the time we were transitioning to F-22s. So our base leadership tried to protect many of us with F-22s that they could. And get us out to training. So my buddy and I, Russ, we were the two-ship flight leads to go to F-22 training. Wow. And at the time, 2 of the youngest guys to fly the jet until the first Raptor baby course started about 3 months later.
How old were you?
Really cool. That would have been in 2000. Hey, so it's like 27, 26 years old.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty amazing. And when you walk into the F-22 training building, the first thing you saw was a sign from the Chief of Staff, Mosey. It says something to the effect of, do not fly this like a 4th gen fighter. This is a national asset.
Oh, gosh.
Don't screw it up.
No pressure.
Because they were getting calls every day from the Air Force down at the training squadron. Anything a Raptor would go on, you had your Raptor supporters and you had your Raptor haters. And it was always a day, politically, they were going to try and kill the program or save the program. And it was always that on edge.
So weird how this happens.
Yeah.
The politics of it is just insanity.
Amazing. Very expensive program because it was breaking down so many technological barriers.
Did it feel like winning the lottery when you got to the airplane?
I'll never forget the day. It was as clear in my mind as soloing out in the Super Cub.
Really?
Yeah, fishing with my mom and dad, king salmon fishing on the Nushagak River. Had an old Nokia phone at the time and got a call from my director of ops. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. He's calling me on while
You're
I'm on
Mr. UAV
vacation.
boy, right?
Yeah. Better to tell him when he's afar and having fun. This is how you break the news to him.
Mommy and Daddy will hold him.
And no, and he told me, you want to go fly the Raptor? And I was like, is this a joke? Flex, you messing with me? Because I thought I was number 2 on base to go to UAVs.
No kidding.
Yep, so they, I mean, there by the grace of God go I, and good enough performance-wise, hopefully. I didn't think I was, you know, it's like being on a team where everybody's better than you, and you're always just trying to level up to that, and that's what makes such a team so good. That's what it's like being in a fighter squadron. And 95% of the guys, you're just trying to keep up with their pace.
That's what keeps everybody.
You hear this on high-end teams all the time, and that's what's such a healthy environment. As long as you watch burnout, but that's what makes you really perform.
So you got the
So I got the
word
Raptor.
with your parents
Yeah.
that I'm going to go fly the Raptor.
Yeah, I didn't really care about catching fish after that.
That is the coolest
That
thing,
is winning
man.
the lottery, for sure.
More fun flying in Alaska than Hawaii? The
No,
Raptor.
I'd say both places are fun. More fun than flying into Virginia. Yeah, Virginia's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
2 of probably the most beautiful states that we have are 49 and 50.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
right. But I mean, funny enough as it is to say, we used to have 2 F-22 squadrons down at Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. And, you know, great place to live, maybe not so much. Great place to fly Raptors, yeah.
really.
Yeah, because you get airspace, you got low levels, you got capability to do low stuff right next to the airport.
Everything.
You know, here we have it's obviously a lot of water, and we train over water, so we lose that capability to have the overland training.
Yeah.
And some of that brings, but Langley Langley Air Force Base in Virginia is more of a pain because they got your training airspace is over the coast
Yeah.
or offshore.
Yeah.
A lot of airline routes through there. Everybody's competing for airspace between the Navy and the Air Force. And then the water's cold like 8 months of the year, so you got to wear your dry suit under all your other gear. So it's just a little bit less fun.
Does weather become a factor when you're off the East Coast out of Langley
Yeah.
in the summertime?
Yeah,
far
weather's
as-
always a factor. We get a lot of weather in Alaska, but it's not those heavy water-laden
Sure.
clouds. You're usually getting above it and fighting up
Are there thunderstorms that go out into the warning areas that you have to?
Yeah, got to watch out for the thunderstorms.
As
at
well.
Langley
Yeah.
for sure. Yep.
Interesting.
Not as much in Alaska.
Yeah,
That was
for
just-
sure.
Thank goodness.
Have you ever picked up a brand new F-22?
Oh yeah, and another highlight of my career.
Wow. Tell me about that.
So I was in the 90th Fighter Squadron at the time up in Alaska. And as we were developing those squadrons and building them, the factory down in Marietta, Georgia was where they built the F-22. And they would, as the jets came off the line, about 20 jets prior, they would go to Langley Air Force Base. They'd hold them there until we were ready to accept them in Alaska.
Okay.
So my commander came up to me and, you know, we all had it's like seniority at the airlines, we all had our kind of name on the list.
I gotcha.
And all of us were like, please don't run out of jets before my name gets to the list. That's going to be awesome to go pick up a brand new jet. What an opportunity. So I got asked to do that. And we were going to go pick up 3 jets off the line and bring one of our other jets that was down there for test. So my squadron commander was there, and gosh, he let me lead the 4-ship of new jets back up to Alaska from Marietta. And I did not do as well as I wanted to, of course, but what an honor it was to do that. And to see that jet on the line, it had 5 hours on it, flown by the Lockheed test guy. We all sat in the room and signed the receipt for the Air Force.
No kidding.
Swiped our credit card. It got 103 million miles. Grand Delta Diamond for life. And then walk out to the jet. And I gave every patch away that I had because the engineers and everybody that built these airplanes would come out and watch them leave.
Wow.
And, you know, those are their babies. And just to meet and talk with those folks and how proud they were of that airplane.
I bet.
And so you climb up the ladder.
Are they in line? 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yep, we're just all parked next to each other.
Okay.
The flow's ready to go. They have them prepped, ready to go. Canopies up, ladders on. And we're getting out there with all our gear. And we wanted to go out there about 20 minutes early just to talk with everybody and
For sure.
provide our appreciation. And then when you get up there, I mean, there's not a smudge of grease on the outside of that airplane. And the inside's just as pristine. Everybody's like, what's it like? I said, well, it has that brand new fighter jet smell.
Gosh, dude, what a great
I didn't even eat my sandwich on the way up to Alaska because it's a long flight. I didn't even want to get crumbs on the seat. The first one to use the piddle pack in that airplane.
Wow.
Don't spill on anything. I just remember how much those jets sparkled as we're crossing up over Canada. The sun was out and we're following the tanker.
I was going to say, so
Yeah.
you're tanking along the way.
Yep. Just
And
nonstop from Atlanta up to
you
Anchorage.
you had already flown the previous ones that were up there.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
So okay. So it wasn't like it was your first
I
time
was a
tanking.
four-ship flight lead at a time, right? No, tanking's got to become, that gets tested early on. That's
Was that a good airplane to tank?
The F-22?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's very nice. The detail that went into the design and ergonomics and human factors of designing the Raptor is hard to match.
Really?
The flight controls will change sensitivity when you do certain things.
Oh wow.
So when I put the landing gear down, the jet goes into power approach mode.
Okay.
Drops the leading edge and trailing edge flaps, stabilize the airplane. You don't get a sensitive flight control, so you don't get into an oscillation.
Gotcha.
Same thing happens when you open the refueling door. It'll desensitize the controls a little bit so that as you come up behind that refueler and plug in, you're not overcorrecting.
I
Or you don't
gotcha.
find yourself in an oscillation. So it's a beautiful airplane to fly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So nonstop to Alaska.
Yep.
Out of Marietta.
Yep. About
Follow-
7.5, 8 hours.
Following the tanker because you're at his speed basically.
Yep, and that's because we don't have the gas to make it.
Yep.
So once we join up on the tanker, they take over for navigation, and it's just like a, mama duck, and we're the chicks that just follow along. We're the ducklings.
When that airplane comes off the line like that, before you even get to Alaska, are there squawks, or does that?
Yeah, funny enough, there are.
Because
there
that's a
can be
new
some-
airplane thing. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter
is it
what you're
a
flying.
Code 1 airplane, or there are some Code 2 systems we would take? Yes.
Okay.
It's got to be able to fly safely, and it's got to have most of its tactical systems working. If it's a known issue that say they found in development that is going to happen, then we'll accept the airplane and bring it up because we know that the
Your
fix is
techs
going to be there.
can
Yeah.
do it.
As long as it's then they gave us a line of what we could accept. But we got all three brand new Raptors up to Alaska that day, and I was in 143. That's my baby.
And
The
they made
143rd Raptor,
83?
195.
195.
On the tail.
Wow.
But there's only about some of those initial test jets don't really count.
Gotcha.
So I think the Air Force throws around a number somewhere around 180, just over 180 now.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
So those brand spanking new jets that you have, are they immediately, once your squawks are, I guess, figured out, they're operational already, or does it take a while for them to then get
Nope.
up to speed?
They are ready to go.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
So you're using them and just like you would all your others that are
That's
up there.
right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, you're in Alaska, flying F-22s or F-15s. Did you ever intercept any Russian airplanes?
Yeah, the squadrons did quite a bit up there.
Did they?
Yeah.
What type of
So-
airplanes?
In the F-15, I got to intercept one of the Tu-95,
The Bear.
Russian Bear bomber.
Okay.
Yeah, they like to come over every few months, and it just
Just
happened
say
to be
hey.
it was going to be your lucky day. Send
Really?
alert. Sometimes we'd schedule out and have someone else have a scheduled line go out there, but it was not uncommon to go do that. They've been doing that for ages. They used to have even 2 forward alert spots up there in Alaska, King Salmon and Galena, where they used to forward position alert fighters
Wow.
to go intercept the Russians. So I don't know if it's a we respect you, you respect us type of thing, and I'm sure we do the same stuff.
How close do you get
Yeah.
to the Bear? Can you
Yeah.
see the pilots?
Oh yeah, we get into I've had to follow them through clouds, so we get in fingertip formation.
No kidding.
It's interesting about the Bear is that it's got those 4 engines and their propellers and they're counter-rotating. And that creates a lot of vibration. And I was in the F-15, and as we got close and we were told to take pictures and follow international protocol, as we did, but you get within about 500 feet, you can feel the vibration of those propellers.
No kidding.
Through the air. Like your airplane starts vibrating. Like, what in the world is going on? Yeah, you can totally feel it.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. And the Russian Bear has the tail gun, so we always have to be aware of that. And they'll wave at us, we wave at them, but they're not fast. You got to slow down so you don't overshoot, and they're just kind of plugging along. I can't imagine what it's like to fly that kind of that tin can on those long-range missions at those airspeeds.
Are they smiling at you? Are they waving? Do they
It's
have
hard to
helmets on?
see.
You're not close enough
The
to...
windows are pretty small. You can't see.
Okay.
You kind of wave at them, or you get closer, you can see them better depending on the angle of the sun. But
Wow.
I'm sure in previous days, they'd go flip each other off and do what pilots do. I don't think no one ever took it too seriously on either side.
No Tom Cruise International. About how far
Did
were you?
not
About
roll
a
and
meter
burn it
away?
over the top of them.
Right. What do you think the most capable fighter is against the F-22? In your dogfighting, not from the aspect of, we already talked about, radars and missiles and F-15s and all that type of stuff. But if you pass them on a merge and you're like, all right, let's go play for a while, what's the most capable? F-16? F-18?
Well, from our side, obviously haven't had a chance to dogfight with every airplane in the world, although it could be fun. The power ratios, any pilot flying a clean F-15 or a big mouth Block 30 that's clean can put up a good fight.
Can put up a good one.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But if you lose to it, is it like...
we're going to shame you in the squadron for sure.
So what happens?
Well, it's a professional training event. So, yeah, we talk smack to each other to get better, but some of those lessons we want to happen in peacetime so you don't have to experience them in combat. So if we can bring in a very experienced F-15 instructor and they have a clean jet.
And go against a baby Raptor?
Yeah.
Raptor
They know, and they fought Raptors before, and they know what can happen. And we've seen this with new Raptor guys that are highly experienced F-15 guys, but it's their first few hours in a F-22. They can be subject to the same pitfalls. And so you put a really experienced guy that's flown against Raptors, and he'll get a couple gunshots on him. And it's nice because that it forces our Raptor guys to eat that humble pie.
Right.
And come to the debrief and say, I don't know everything.
That's good.
I can learn.
That's so good.
So it proves the point that they have a lot to learn.
That's a very good lesson.
Right.
That's a very good lesson.
So we take advantage of every time we lose. Now, do we like it? No. Do we talk a lot of shit? Of course. Yeah.
I love that. I just love that. It must just suck so bad to be an F-22 guy and get beat by a fourth generation fighter. I would be up at night smacking myself in the head if that happened to me. But what a great lesson, right?
Well, it's a big lesson. And, it doesn't happen all the time. The jet's incredibly capable. We don't lose as many times as we should in training because
it gets you out of the trouble you put yourself in.
It's hard to tell somebody to be better when they're like, but why I won? You're like, well, dude, but you didn't win the right way.
That's so funny.
So you need to do better at winning.
I love that.
I love that. Some of those jets will underperform, but yeah, someone who's fought against the Raptor, there's always strengths, there's always weaknesses, there's design trade-offs, and so we'll try and put our young guys in situations where they have a disadvantage so they can learn.
That's great.
Yeah.
Of all the fighter pilots that you've flown against worldwide, have you had a chance to do, stuff with other guys around the world, NATO people and things like this, Israelis, et cetera, et cetera?
Israelis, Germans,
Japanese. Could you elevate one group over another to say, because if I'm an American fighter pilot and I'm not better than the rest of the fighter pilots of the world, I would have a problem with that. I'd be like, listen, U.S., you need to train me to a point where I can kick everybody's ass.
Right.
Because to me, it's no different when we just beat Canada in the hockey gold. I want to win as an American. I want to win. And if I'm not winning, maybe it's just me. But if we're not winning, I have a problem with that.
That's right.
You need to train me better. So that being said, who is really elevated in your mind? Who can you elevate and say, because it's nothing against the pilot, it's really against what they've been taught or their ability financially to say you fly enough, you spend enough money so that your tactics are great.
Yeah.
You are what you are.
There's a multi-layers to that. You got to train, and you got to let the guys in a fighter squadron be aggressive. An old a buddy of mine who did some ground team stuff. Their team had gotten chewed out, and evidently the master, after the officer came in and chewed him out.
Okay.
And then the master chief comes in and he said something to the effect of, this is all he said, those guys. You don't feed tigers milk, don't be an idiot.
Oh, I love it.
And that's very important because you're in a job to bring down the hammer for the country. And that aggression should be contained but not erased. That's why we have such a big issue with some of the DEI policies and the soft stuff. And you take that aggression away from the fighter bar and the songs and the culture that allows us to go in and be hard on each other and be debrief and get guys to sit around on a 6-hour debrief because they know they're getting better.
Yep.
Is important to maintain that learning culture. So as I compare that to other cultures around the world, we're always one step away from being the worst in the world if we lost our attention to detail and if we started putting rank or status important in the debrief, if we lost the ability to go at solid debriefs. So those countries that choose to take debriefing seriously, aside from what family you were born into or what social status you have, will be better.
Yep.
And I know you've flown with heard different cultures around the airlines where,
100%.
hey, the captain's always right, don't talk to him. Those cultures are not going to thrive tactically. Or those that are good at debriefing each other. I was impressed by I got to fly against some of the German Eurofighters out here, and I thought that they had done well. They took debrief fairly seriously. So most of the European countries are pretty good at it. Israel's taken a lot of lessons from us, but everybody's chasing the U.S. fighter pilot for sure. I think we set this, and we still do, and we should, like you said.
We
set the
should.
standard.
We should.
But it doesn't come from, I'm a prince, I get to fly an F-15.
No, it comes from everything you just described.
It's all the dirty work, and it was being in the vault for hours,
Yep.
studying and getting better.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, you know this answer. I can think of it in terms of I can dream to be an F-22 guy. That was not my path. But if I'm an F-22 guy, I'm given the keys to, the Lamborghini, and everybody else has the Mustang. Whatever analogy you want to use. I'm expected to win. I'm expected to be the best. Michael Jordan is expected to win and make the shot. Do you feel a pressure, even if it's a little underlying? I've got to win this fight because I have the big gun. I was given a semi-auto and you have a revolver. Is there a pressure there with F-22 guys that may not be there in a fourth generation?
No to that last question. Yes, we do take it as we want to be the best with a caveat in the air.
Okay.
We are the best air to air. And the F-15 community, we took that over from the F-15C community. Like my A-10 buddies, best at close air support.
For sure.
And some of that air to ground stuff. So those pressures are equal on all your fighter squadrons, which gives us such a strong air force. It's awesome. And I would say that the bomber guys are saying the same thing. And the right tanker guys, the KC-135 guys are saying the same thing. That a solid tanker pilot is keeping his situational awareness high and can understand how the fight's going. So maybe if fighters can stand 5 more minutes on target and they save some of our troops on the ground, that tanker puts himself in a position to give them gas.
I love
right
that.
There.
That's
so
awesome.
Everybody's striving towards being proud in their role.
I like that.
When you try and compare yourself to other people's roles, you'll never find happiness or success. And for us, it's like, teach our guys, know your role. We're here to support bombers. We're here to support the strikes going in. So our role is support.
From an air-to-air standpoint,
yeah, air-to-air, absolutely. We want to be the best.
Okay.
And we get disappointed when we, have simulated losses. Yeah.
Is there more pressure flying the F-22 than the F-15 because of what you just described?
Nope, because it's just an attitude.
Okay.
Maybe, but I think most people, it's the attitude of just not wanting to suck.
Does pressure help you perform?
Yeah,
Your
until
personality.
it becomes disability, disables you. Some people can only hold so much stress and then they'll shut down. And we take a lot of some of that stress optimization because we debrief it so much. If we can keep people at that optimum level, your adrenaline's running, but you're calm.
Yep.
So we can go to the fight, let's say, and we want to go to the fight and win. But what's harder than going to the fight and winning is knowing when you need to turn around and go home to save that jet. If I only have a couple thousand pounds of gas and I'm about to go in outnumbered and I'm close on ammunition, depends on the risk of the mission. Is it something that I is worth losing that jet over?
Right.
Or is it better that I get back, refuel, rearm, and live to fight another day? And it is that maturity and delineation of when you go into the fight and how hard you fight at that time is really important, and it's a depends, and that is another reason why I think AI is going to have a hard time taking over, because it changes every minute. The factors change, the variables are changing in that decision.
You don't think
you could have a system fail where you're no longer as capable as you just were. Let's say I lose left side of my weapons base and I can't employ half that ordnance. Well, now am I an asset in the fight or am I a liability?
Can you program that decision in?
Only through experience. There's a joke. The Air Force wants to make a fighter pilot with 10 years of experience in 6 years because they keep pushing and cutting and doing all this stuff. We're like, no, how long does it take to make a fighter pilot with 10 years of experience? 10 years.
I love it.
Yeah, you have to see there. You have to feel it. You have to go through it.
I don't think that you can, without being a fighter pilot or without being anybody in whatever level of expertise that you have, understand it until you're in it.
Yeah, like anything, for sure.
Like anything.
I totally agree. Like anything.
I just don't think you can quite get it.
You
so
can't
the
just
people
read the
that you're
book.
fighting against to say, no, you can't make a fighter pilot with 10 years of experience in 6. I think it's just difficult to understand that until you actually are one.
Until you're in the
because I
seat,
can't
yeah.
even get the point across. It's just years and years of experience to understand that.
That's a benefit we had when we had 2-seat fighter jets, you know. Kind of a pain when you got to give people incentive flights and rides because you're not out doing your main mission. But on the other hand, it's a messaging ability to say, to take that decision maker or take that person who can advocate on your behalf and say, all right, how's this feel? And they come back and they can't even crawl themselves out of the jet.
Yeah.
That's hard. And like I said, with anything, with that experience and comes that understanding.
That's interesting. Was there ever a time in the F-22 where you expected this to happen and a 180 just absolutely came in and you really had to pivot and make some different decisions in order for the outcome to be positive? Like a story.
Oh man, any debrief where I got gunned and didn't survive, or those, or you start out offensive in a dogfight and end up defensive, man, that fires you up and makes you real pissed.
Really?
There was the decision to stay in active duty or go to the Guard was a big challenge there. At the time, the Air Force wasn't necessarily competing their fighter guys as fighter guys. They were competing them with all the other officers in the force. And so it diluted what that training capability could be, or competing. They didn't say, okay, you guys are going to promote into these jobs, and there's only so many of you can promote, so 80% of you are going to get promoted. They just toss you in with everybody, which means at some point the Air Force wasn't promoting the guys that were the ones that were, pushing the button and pulling the trigger at the rate that had happened before. And so it was an opportunity to be like, well, if the Air Force doesn't want to active duty, want to put me on that flight path, then it was a big decision when you weren't in the model of school selection or whatever the Air Force was calling it at the time. Like, hey, if you don't get your master's degree while you're still learning fighter tactics, you're not going to be eligible to promote, because all your other officer peers can go get their master's degree because they're sitting in their office and they're not debriefing for 6 hours a day.
I gotcha.
So then they compete higher than us. They're like, oh, well, what do I want to do?
Is that when your mind starts saying, I'm getting out and I'm going into the Guard?
It usually happens around that 8, 9, 10 year mark. And the Air Force lost a lot of fighter pilots doing it. And thank goodness the Air Force model has the reserves and the Air National Guard. Because if you got these $10 million assets coming out the taxpayers just paid for and they hit the end of their 10-year career, at least that can shock absorb and hold that talent in a Guard and Reserve force. That's really great. The Navy doesn't have that. They only have like 3 reserve squadrons. So it's hard for them to hold that talent in those roles because it costs us a lot of money. So that's a big challenge, and I think the Air Force has corrected rightly on that. And you'll see retention bonuses go up and such. But everybody said, "Oh, we just got to pay them more money," and I'm the first one to say, no. You just keep the job fun and let them be independent. No one wants to fly fighters for the money. We would probably all pay money to fly fighters.
Right.
So just saying it's a paid retention thing, no. It is a quality of life and a job satisfaction thing.
Gotcha.
In my opinion.
When the F-22, and I'm sure that you can't talk about this stuff, but the F-22 was used in Iran. That's been public knowledge. Can you tell us, because it was used in an event like that, or maybe some other events, it's, oh man, we got to have this. All of a sudden, clicked for a lot of political types, senators, congressmen. You just proved the point. You've been bitching and moaning about this for 10 years, but now we've had a real event. And okay, we get it now. Has that happened?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not in those discussion circles. When I was deployed to the desert for Inherent Resolve with the efforts against ISIS, that was under the Obama administration. There wasn't a lot of love towards the military at that time in some sense of the word as far as future investment goes. Depends on, who controls the Congress and the needs. So those circles change more rapidly, and I'm not involved in them, but I would hope the discussion occurs. And they get the right people in the room to help make an informed decision. I think that's hopefully trust in the chain of command. I think, the current chairman is fantastic. He's got a great experience level, General Kane. And what I've seen is if guys like him can be listened to, then he's got a great perspective.
And the ear of the F-22 is going to be heard.
And not just the F-22, but the entire status of the force. Because the F-22 doesn't win a war by itself.
Sure.
And even if we shut down every other airplane, but we still can't go in because of other defenses they have, because I'm not an air-to-ground fighter in that sense. So what do we do then? So if I wanted 1,000 F-22s, but then I had no air-to-ground capability, it wouldn't be worth it. So I hope that dynamic and that balance is looked at accurately based on the mission specifics.
The air-to-air capability of the F-22 is so great, but I haven't seen anything in the last 15 years be great against the F-22 that we've gotten ourselves into.
Yeah. Well, we shot down a balloon. Well, that's good. That means it was a worthwhile investment. All the discussion early on that the program was too expensive and then ended up canceling it. But no one has wanted to fight us in the air for coming up about 30, 40 years. We haven't had an American troop bombed on the ground by an enemy aircraft since the mid-1950s, since the Korean War.
Wow.
That says something about air superiority and how important that is as an enabler.
Right.
If you observe the change in air superiority, what it means in the Ukraine-Russia conflict with the drones coming in, terrifying. The Army's always owned low air in that sense of artillery shells. It depends on what you want to define as air superiority in that sense. But we just see the effects of what happens when you lose air superiority. So is it the most important piece? No. Is it an essential piece of the puzzle? Yeah. It's got to happen. It's typically first. Looking
forward past the F-22 and the next generation of fighter, what can you say about it? What can you say about the next generation that you can talk about?
I hope it's as good as the F-22 was in its leap from 4th to 5th generation.
Will it have a pilot in it?
Should. I hope. We all hope as fighter pilots. I don't think the technology is advanced enough. We look at some of the drones that exist today, we don't see anything programmed as dynamic as what a fighter pilot has to do right now.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I'm on a flight to Korea. I'm on a flight to South Africa. And I'm on a flight from South Africa back to the United States in the southern Atlantic, probably 25 degrees south, headed towards Brazil. To my south, I'll call them UFOs because I have no idea what they are. No idea what they are.
Yeah.
Same thing on my way to Korea over about North Dakota. Same thing past Bermuda.
Yeah.
And I was told this before from some other pilots I've flown with. I'm like, whatever. And then I see it. And I see 3 objects in the air, well above us, and we're in the high 30s. And this is at night, and it looks like 2 are in perfect formation, almost like they're following another. Burner on, and then off. There's no satellite type, there's no movement that you can say this is a star, this is a planet. No chance, 0. It's the consistent on all 3 of these flights. Different parts of the world. There's technology out there that is crazy. It's crazy at the speed at which these things moved, at the elevation at which they were. Of course, air traffic control, hey, do you show anything? No. And then some airliner, I see the same thing. There's stuff out there, and it's very exciting to me because it's like, yes, let's go. Whatever it's going to be, we're doing things out there. So when we talk about drones, whether you read all kinds of stuff, you even just open up an Aviation Week and you're going to be able to see things about some pretty cool things. But the next generation fighter, maybe it will be the F-47 because Trump wants it to be called the F-47.
That's what they're saying.
Right?
That's what they're saying. Yep.
Do you think it'll be coupled with drones and things that can fly on its wing, and it can utilize that technology of pilot? I have my platform, but I've got my 2 buddies over here who aren't pilots, but they're on my wing, and we can get a lot done.
Yeah. And that's been discussed in many forums at the Air Force Association and things like that, those same questions. So I think that is the path that has been acknowledged to go forward in research. The potentiality for that.
I've seen it.
And can you forward deploy it? Is there enough gas? How long can they loiter? Are we just going to make them expendable and drop millions of dollars into the ocean when they go one way? There are so many additional factors as to, can we do it? Yeah, we can probably do it. But how do you feed that logistical chain and everything else, and how much can you afford to just not recover?
I was super shocked to see it in the Southern Atlantic, though.
Well, I don't know what those things are. I haven't had those experiences.
It wasn't surprising to see it over land on my way. It was kind of North Dakota area.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised to see it in the mid-Atlantic over, not far, Bermuda. But when I was in the middle of the South Atlantic and I saw into my south, I'm just thinking, well, the only thing it can be is a carrier, or it's, some other technology of an airborne large platform that gets to release these things. But it was really neat to see it myself, because everyone wants to think of little green guys and UFOs. Whatever, I don't believe in that, but I believe in unidentified.
Oh yeah, they're unidentified, and there's got to be
because there's the F-117, there's the SR-71, there's every other thing that we've ever developed. That at some point, we're going to have a decade of testing it out before we release it, or it gets released to the public.
I'm pretty sure I've been a UFO to a couple people.
For
on occasion.
For sure.
Yep. A couple of bright flash at night when your afterburners go off or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think a buddy and I were talking about that same conversation. Hey, have you ever seen anything weird? And we're flying up north of Hawaii here on a night flight, heading up north, getting set up for the fight. And we got the lights turned down, looking up at the stars, and no kidding, here comes this strangest thing over the north horizon. It looks like this caterpillar just coming right at us. And we're like, what in the world? And it just strung out. There are 30 of these things. And we didn't know that SpaceX at the time was launching all the Starlink, and that they would all be right there. And it was just an ironic timing
incident, right?
That we were just talking about it. We're like, oh my God, what the world is that coming right at us? Or did we just manifest this? What's going on here? There's got to be satellites. Once it got overhead, and I've thought a couple times that Venus has been coming right at me. I don't know what pilot has not thought Venus was on a collision course with them as it comes up. But no, there are strange things, and I don't discount those guys that have seen them because, like you said, it's unidentified, but you can see crazy things. Yeah.
Okay. Have you lost any buddies, any friends in military aviation?
Yeah, as is the career. classmates of mine from the academy, squadron mate up in Alaska,
F-15 accident?
F-22 accident. My buddy Bong Haney, packed it in up there about a decade ago. And
What happened?
oh, longer than that. Jeez, that would have been close to 2010, 16 years ago. I think the Air Force released the safety report on that, had a malfunction at high altitude and was trying to go through his emergency procedures, and ended up through some means of, I'll let the people read the report if it's out there, but the end result was he didn't make it. Tried to pull up and it was too late.
Wow.
So, yeah, we lost a great guy there and a great airplane. And I've known others that, boy, I don't know. Luckily, we lose less and less each year. There's
that's
navigation.
the statistics?
Yeah, there's navigation points up in Alaska that we would come back on and say, oh, Brody, that point is named for when this F-15 guy hit this mountain. And you look back in the test pilot days when they were testing early jets, it wasn't uncommon to lose somebody down at Edwards during flight tests. And there were a lot more accidents during that time, just like in the airline world.
It is. So do you attribute it to the operational procedures, maybe capabilities of the airplane to let you know or to get you out of trouble?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of each thing?
All the above.
All the above?
Always trying to iterate and make it safer. Now, we're never going to be able to safety our way out of the risk of combat, and I think that is the double-edged sword of becoming so safe that we have lost a little bit of the understanding of the danger that naturally goes with it. You're going 10 miles a minute and you're 20,000 feet, that's only 4 miles above the earth. So you're not that far away from impacting in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
At any one time, and most of their stuff, we're less than a minute away if something happened from crunching it in. And we have a system in the jet, auto ground collision avoidance, that allows the jet to have a flat line in sand and say, oh, I'm not going to go below this once we turn it on. So if you've blacked out or something happens, the jet will self-recover at this line in the sky.
Is this something that you turn on every flight?
Yep. And once we got it, for the first many years I flew the jet, it didn't have it.
Okay, now it has it.
We've had a couple fatalities in the airplane where, and in fact, that system has saved a couple jets too.
That's awesome.
So that's part of that.
It just levels the jet out?
Yep, but it's just a line in the sky.
Okay.
So you still got to set it right. If you set that line below the mountaintops,
Gotcha.
then you have to be over the mountains. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. That's just awesome technology. That's really great.
Yeah, and it's awesome that the Air Force took the investment to go after that.
Yeah.
When you look at the cost of a Raptor compared to the cost of instrumenting that program, the math gets also pretty supportive pretty quick.
That's
and the
interesting.
training of the pilot.
What's the worst thing that you've ever seen while flying the F-22?
Worst in what regard?
Be it an accident, be it anything that you can say, I don't ever want to see that again.
Like while flying?
Yeah. Maybe even a ground incident.
A couple of them, but one that I think the audience and pilots would appreciate is that this happened at Langley Air Force Base when I was flying over there. And we were out over the ocean doing a normal training VFR day back at Langley, which has one runway. And our whole squadron was flying and recovering, and we have our alternate airfields south of us, Navy Norfolk, and then Norfolk Naval Air Station where all the F-18s are. And it's not far away. 40 miles, 30, not even that, maybe 20 miles south. So we are during our return to base, and first F-22 comes in, lands, and jams on the brakes too hard and pops a tire.
Okay.
And is stuck on the runway.
All right.
And closes the runway. And we're all returning with VFR fuels, so we don't have alternate gas.
Uh-oh.
So primarily we want to take it to a military installation that has other fighters that are used for security and ease of turning the jet, gassing up, and coming back home. So there's about 8 of us airborne, and we're all not high on gas.
Okay.
We're all getting low on gas, but we can make it down south. So we just say, hey, we're going to fly VFR down to the Navy Norfolk, Norfolk Naval Air Station. And and go land there. So I remember flying over Navy Norfolk, a single runway down here, right on the bay, looking down on my right side. They're VFR. I'm still plenty of gas to make it farther south, but here's this perfectly good runway right below me.
Yep.
Right there, wingman's in good shape, no one else is going there. Would have been simple to just flip the jet around, but it wasn't in our procedures. Well, it was, but it was number 2 on the choice list, and I could still make it to number 1. So we continue 8 miles southeast to the military base, and it's freaking fogged over at like 1,000 feet overcast because it's right on the coast and this fog had just blown in. So you're shooting approaches, so you need IFR gas to do it. And not having the gas come down, and then my wingman's avionics tumbled and wouldn't recover, so he can't navigate. So we have to break the rules. We have to do a VFR letdown through the clouds, find the runway, and there's a point where I can't go back and get my wingman. Because one Raptor went around with an F-18 going opposite direction. It was turning into a total shit show. And I had to get below those clouds and come back around, and I landed, and I think I shut down with not a lot of gas. It was close to having an engine cavitate, and I was the one with the most amount of gas to come in there. And my wingman found it by me just talking him down. I said, okay, you need to fly on a
So he didn't say,
270.
he didn't stay.
No, because we already split up to land. So he was behind me 2 miles, but then his jet shut down, so he lost the radar lock.
Oh, he had lost.
So now I had to call my turns and stuff to stay in trail because I don't have the gas to turn around and rejoin on them. I don't. Because you're going to burn too much gas.
You got one chance.
You got one chance. And I said, if you can't find the airfield, you're going to have to go out over the water and punch. Oh, well, what do you do? The decision is not, I mean, it's ticking down. You watch it. There's my fuel.
How did the 1,000 overcast crappy Viz thing not
get communicated? We were cocky about everything else being VFR. We were using our
so
eyes.
it was just a real.
We listened to ATIS. It was scattered.
I gotcha.
Scattered, not broken, not overcast, but it closed in that quick. In that 5 to 10 minutes we needed to get down there.
Are you talking to the tower?
Yeah, we're talking to the tower,
And
they're
the
trying to
tower
bring in
doesn't
Hornets
really-
in, and they're seeing it get worse and worse. And
I
now people
gotcha.
are going, can't find the airport and having to set up for IFR clearances, and then people are declaring emergency fuel.
That's an eat your seat time right there.
And I should have never overflown that open VFR runway. Never want to do that again because what turned into a pleasant, we're just going to divert to another airfield, turned into an absolute scary situation where you thought my own decisions will cost us these Raptors. And damn it.
Not good.
No.
The tiny decisions in life, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever do any F-22 demo flying?
No, just very, very briefly.
Air show stuff?
Nah, just right into 2012, 2013. Sequestration closed down everything that year, so I went back into the squadron.
Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha. Is that when guys do that, is it an assignment?
It is, yep. So there's about 3 pathways a Raptor guy will take when he's a senior captain or major.
Okay.
He's about that right age group. He's been a mission commander, instructor. His reputation has now been built. They know if he's a good dude or not. And those 3 paths are demo. You can go to the Raptor demo team, and there's only one pilot, so that's a 2-year assignment or 3-year to Langley Air Force Base, because that's where the demo team is based. Or you can go to weapons school and become an expert tactician, which is going to set your next career. Okay. That's your role. Or you're going to go to test pilot school, then at Edwards, and you're going to go into the world of all test pilot stuff, which is not Air Combat Command, it's Air Force Material Command. And you're going to work on getting capabilities out to the Air Force. Gotcha. So those are kind of the 3 timings because it sets up where you're going to go next in your career.
Gotcha.
And it takes a long time to build that expertise. So, yeah.
All right, ManBear, when you transitioned to the airlines, was it more difficult than you thought? Were you pleasantly surprised? Were you let down? What was that process like?
Yeah. Well, I kind of had to be kicked by some really great friends and mentors of mine in the Guard. Okay. To go to the airlines.
To do it.
To do it. I said, I don't want to do that. You can't pull G's, and Delta Airlines doesn't like it if I roll upside down. You become addicted to that intensity.
Yep.
And probably the most accurate line that I appreciated in Top Gun 2 from Maverick was, his line is like, I don't know how to give it up.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say no. It's too rewarding, it's too fulfilling, it's too intense. I mean, you get to exercise your challenges in all three states of physical, mental, and emotional all at once, and you're always self-improving. It's, why would I not want to do that?
Right.
And then you realize that the only guys I've seen fly these jets in their late 40s, 50s, they suck. They're never going to be that tactician they once were, because you can't maintain that level of peakness. You have other responsibilities. And I never wanted to be a subpar instructor.
Okay.
But to be a top-notch instructor, you better stay on that afterburner train, and you better be studying the tactics that are coming out every year. You better be training hard, because it's perishable. And no matter how good you are, you're always getting worse or getting better. That's it. And there's no in between. There's no like stasis. So the effort it takes to stay at that level where the world wants to be you as an American fighter pilot is difficult. And if you don't find an off-ramp, it's really hard to transition to the rest of life. And I really like how the Guard and Reserve open up opportunities for you to dive back into the civilian role while still having that ability to serve.
Right.
And then you can throttle full-time, part-time, full-time, part-time, but it gives you an ability to slow down, retain for the force, but also begin to come out of that shell of the double-walled vault that you operate in, and learn to grow. And these mentors of mine had, and instructors, longtime F-15 instructors, had been through all that. And they said, ManBear, you need to start thinking about your long-term future. You're not going to be flying these jets when you're 60 years old, and you don't want to be. You've seen those guys that get into that. They have no off-ramp. They can have a great time, but you got to find something, whether it's airline flying or something else that you're willing to now invest some time in. And I really appreciated that. And they said, listen, you don't have to like the airlines, but you should really try it out. You have the skill set, you get your ratings, it is a nice way to have a different mission, whether it's cargo or people. And if you love flying, it might be something you enjoy doing for the amount of time you can also have back to you. And that's what it did. It took me, came out and joined the Hawaii Guard and put in my application to Delta. And I was just going to be a part-time Raptor pilot and 10 bar down at Waikiki. What better life than single?
Oh, yeah.
And then Delta called, and I had to grow up and mature a little bit. It was fun, and I went and did the interview and was fortunate enough to be hired back in 2015. So most of my Guard career has paralleled with Delta. And I've had the ability to appreciate civilian life and military life, be an asset for the country, but also maintain a sense of independence and a contribution as a taxpayer to the country. I didn't have the personal interest in diving into the military industrial complex or some sort of government job, because I felt that for me, it was important to contribute as a citizen in that sense. So anyway, I've been doing that, and we'll go back to that when I retire from the Air Force in the next few months.
Was it challenging?
Oh, right. It was at first.
At first.
Learning the different roles, what an autopilot was. The fact that you can go land 0-0 with some of these autopilots as a system monitor, terrifying to me. Landing in Seattle at that low visibility I was petrified. And the right seat would be like, what are we doing?
That's hilarious.
And but also challenging. I had a great mentor of mine, Hollywood Dishart, and he was a Delta guy.
Okay.
Lived up out of Boston area. He was one of my first line check airmen on the ER. And Hollywood had flown in some of the original Top Gun scenes, was an F-14 pilot, Top Gun instructor. Pinnacle. Right? When they used to, bus in the partiers.
Right.
The ladies at the officers club. All the things I missed. But I said, Hollywood, you were living your dream. That is awesome. How in the world are you dealing with going through TSA, going through the passengers, schlepping your bag all around, and as we were flying back and forth across the country? And he said, it's just a different mission, man. He said, I realized I was too much of a people person to want to fly cargo around. Mm-hmm. I turned it into something I enjoy. I enjoy meeting some of the gate agents, meeting the other pilots, I said, I really take the experiences. My mission is to get 300 people a quarter way around the world after flying them 7 miles high in a pressurized metal tube, and they don't know the difference.
Right.
That's not easy.
Yeah.
He said, we make it look easy, and the technology helps, but when the shit hits the fan, you need to know how to do these things. And so I appreciated the challenge he laid down at my feet, is to be able to be a safe, competent airline pilot. There's a lot of procedures you got to know. You're in busy airports, and so it gave me a sense of perspective, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would through that first year. And I came to have a respect for the what it takes to be competent in the world of IFR versus competent in the world of tactics and VFR. So just a different model, but you can have the same mission satisfaction from it if you have the right attitude.
Sometimes there's a danger level in obviously fighter aviation like you can't describe, but there's also, because of the complexity of the civilian airspace and the busyness of the airports and the constant movement, constant communication, there's a danger level to the airlines, really, it seems. Did you find that, gosh, like, there's just so much going on?
Yeah, and I don't have an ejection seat.
Yeah.
That sucked.
I mean, did you start, what airplane did you start off on?
The 757 and 767.
Okay, so you started there. Was there those times where you're pushing back from Kennedy or LA and you're like, dude, this is way more complicated than it needs to be?
Trying to figure out the radio frequency changes at Atlanta.
Yeah.
Man, that was more work than the last 2 hours of flying, was figuring out what frequency to be on and making sure you're not crossing the wrong runway, or is this taxiway or runway? For sure a challenge. And I don't have the safety escapes. Like I just joked about, I didn't have an ejection seat, and I imagine that passengers would find it disconcerting if pilot walked on with a parachute over his back, in a Delta. So there's a lot more, there's no get out of jail free cards for your mistakes in an airline. I'm not just responsible for me. If I make a bad tactical decision and I get shut down, fine. If I can eject, great, and I've got a bunch of survival gear, and it's all about that mission. And I am that safety as a pilot. We are that safety for the passengers. And you really got to be on it, because there's no, you can't just, you don't have all those systems that get you out of that airplane.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
So I felt a lot more weight of responsibility in a different way for people's lives versus taking care of the machine and providing an asset for the taxpayers.
Okay, so the F-22 will fly pretty high. I've been approached by 2 people now. Hilariously. And they're like, now I know you've signed NDAs. I know you can't rule it, but seriously, come on, is the Earth round?
Yeah.
And I'd about passed out because I couldn't believe that these people actually believe this. And I'm trying to squish this. As an F-22 pilot, you get high in the airplane. You've seen the curvature of the Earth. Yes or no?
Yes. Yep.
Period. End of statement.
Yeah, you can start to see it at 60,000 feet. My YouTube buddies say it's even more apparent up where they're at 70.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool to see.
I know you flat earthers aren't going to believe because you're going to assume he's part of the conspiracy. I just had to get it out there. Your last flight in the F-22. Your very last flight, your Finney flight.
Yeah.
Where was it? Tell me about it. What was the one thing that you did in the airplane you said, I'm going to do this for one last time?
Man, I wanted to do everything. It was early December of 2024. And the nice thing about a final flight in the Air Force, the real final flight, not just leaving the squadron, but forever. First of all, it's hard to make that decision.
Yeah.
To take that G suit and hand it back over voluntarily. After all that work you did to get that G suit and earn that G suit, and to hand it back over is so difficult. But on the other hand, it is an honor and a privilege because there's so many friends of mine that didn't get that choice.
Yeah.
They either had a medical thing happen and they didn't know it was their final flight. They were moved to an assignment and then something happened and never came back, and they never knew it was going to be their last flight. And for those that make it through fighter aviation, because I never went to teach pilot training or anything. I was in fighter aviation for 20 years in the cockpit. And to have that opportunity and to stay healthy enough, strong enough to do that, to have the option to hand that back in was surreal. And so we got to pick our buddies to go fly with. The squadron had a handful of jets to fly that afternoon that I was going to fly, and brought in a bunch of family. And
here in Hawaii?
It was here in Hawaii.
Okay.
Yep. And so we had a tanker to go get some gas from. I had, guys that I've enjoyed flying with from the 135 squadron on that airplane. And, everybody that, you can't pick all your friends because everybody's pretty close in the squadron. So you try and pick, your best old friend and your best new guy that came up and let them experience that F-15 flight so they can carry on those same traditions. But I wanted to go out and I wanted to go to 60,000 feet Mach 2. And then I wanted to come down and dogfight all my buddies. So we had it set up. We were to go 1v1. I got to fight everybody. And we go get some gas. And then I wanted to do a long range fight where we all end up fighting together. And then I wanted to go down and do the Raptor loops and all the amazing maneuvers that only this jet can do. And then lead the boys home up initial and pitch out and land. We had some maintenance issues. I think the Raptor was giving me a sign. I had a
You're done?
I had a very minor fuel leak that had me concerned a little bit to come back. Luckily we had a tanker to top off some gas with, so I could troubleshoot the issue. But it took out the ability to do the high fast run, because you don't want to make a bad situation worse.
Right.
And I had to have some fun and then come back in and land. But I had to shut down the engine on taxi back in.
Did you really?
Yep. And I said, well, Jet, I guess this is it. You didn't kill me.
Thanks for pushing me out a little bit.
And in the back of my mind, I was like, dear God, do not have to punch out on your very last flight. That would be my last flight. But that would be not a good thing.
Right.
So let's get this jet back home safe. And but it also kind of cemented the memory of the flight too. So
I can only imagine in my mind, because I haven't had the opportunity to do it, but I can only imagine that either day before or the night before, like tomorrow's really gonna be it.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I am done. It's the last time I'm gonna fly this airplane or fighter aviation for the rest of my career. Is it just, I just, how do you describe that?
Yeah.
Are you up all night? Can you even get to sleep? Are you thinking about, man, I'm showing at 6 in the morning and this is it?
Yeah, the only reason you're staying away, I mean, I was able to sleep. I've slept through more stressful missions.
Stressful in a different way,
yeah, but
though.
the only reason you're trying to stay up late, which you shouldn't, because it's fighter aviation, that'll kill you, is you're trying to slow down time.
Right.
You're trying to stay conscious, because if you know you're going to sleep, you're going to time warp 8 hours, and then that day is going to show up. So you're just trying to pump the brakes and make it as slow as you can. And I remember walking out to the jet and climbing the ladder, and I was trying to slow down time to take it all in and start those engines. I got choked up and a little bit teary-eyed taxiing out the jet for the last time. And it's for all your friends that are out there watching you and your family and all the support. And you start to think about all the big emotional part was all the support you had from your buddies along the way, all the time you put into it, all the successes, all the failures, it just all kind of is going to pinnacle up. Those thoughts are inevitable. And then at the end of the taxiway, before you taxi out to the runway for takeoff, you just kind of slap yourself back. You're like, all right, come on, focus up. You're do not mess this up. And so you kind of get back into game mode. And the whole flight, you're just back in the game, kind of plugged into the matrix. It's fun, but you're not thinking about it because you're in front of the airplane. You're thinking about the next mission and coming in and landing, even taxiing back, dealing with the fuel leak. I didn't have much time to get all sentimental. Come in, and I did have time to enjoy the fire truck lay,
cool.
They call it here in Hawaii, the lay, the water lay. And they spray over the jet, and it was beautiful coming in. And I remember talking to the maintainers, and I said, I should be more sentimental, but hey guys, I got to shut down pretty quick. You see that fuel leak? And they're like, sure, you got a fuel leak. I'm like, that's right. And the engine's coming off. And then that was it. Canopy comes up, and it's done when you step out of that
Does
jet.
the tower know as you're on the break that you're
Yeah,
retiring?
because we'll kind of coordinate if we want anything special. Like usually, like I was leading my two buddies Usually you'll pitch out, and then you'll do a low approach, and they'll land.
Okay.
And then they'll come back around. So we'll coordinate with Tower,
Okay.
and we try and get to know some of those folks to
That's a very
create that
cool.
relationship. But not this time.
Did
I
Deuce
made sure to land.
do his retirement before yours?
Yeah.
He did?
Yep.
Okay.
He did.
You were-
He had his Finney flight about a year before mine.
I gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. As you're transitioning out of the military here coming up, what is going on in your life now? You're going back to the airlines. You own a coffee
Yeah.
roasting company.
Yeah.
What else is going on? Is that taking?
Yeah,
It's
that's
going
about
to take
it.
a lot of
It
your
is.
time.
Yeah.
Is there a
Yes, indeed.
nervousness to leaving the military in general because it's been such a part of your life, or is there an excitement about it? And
Yeah.
second part of the question, because you've been out of the airlines for a while, is there a nervousness of going back to the airlines and getting back into that lifestyle and plugging back in?
Not really a nervousness. I'm looking forward to it. I'm more like aware that I'm going to have a lack of purpose. A sense will be there where, like my buddies will deploy somewhere.
Yeah.
And if I can't be there, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Miss out-itis is real if you can't be part of that mission. You want to be there, even if it sucks. You kind of want to be there. And the purpose you get by serving on a military mission, regardless of your views on it, is intense, and you're with some of the best people in the world next to you.
Yeah.
And the responsibility that goes along with that. So I imagine there will be some hole in that sense of purpose that I have already, and I see it a lot more with people who will do like 20 years, have no civilian job, no outside interests, and then cut it. Retirement and Finney flight the same day. That is mentally extremely difficult.
Sounds
I
like
don't know how they do
like
it.
an athlete, like a pro athlete, where they don't have anything.
Yeah,
you need to have something to
you
fill
gotta
that
have
void.
something. And
huh?
again, that's why I love some of the just such high accolades and thanks to my mentors who said, join the Guard. Hey, try this airline thing out. The coffee thing happened by happenstance from a good friend of mine, a former Coast Guard guy, pilot who wanted to retire, and so I ended up picking up the business from him and his wife. And it's all given me a nice ramp into civilian life, where I think it's going to be a very pleasant transition, where
That's
I can
awesome.
look back with fond thoughts on the people. But I've walked by the jets recently, because I still work at the squadron, I'm not retired yet, and I look at that jet and I'll stand next to it and I'll say, do I miss flying it? And the answer has been no right now. And that's a healthy place to be.
Right.
Would I like to fly it again? Yeah, but I don't want to be mediocre at it. And for me to pace out with all my other life interests after 20 years of being in that pigeonhole, to go to these other things, I would not be able to do that jet, give that jet and the taxpayers the absolute time and need to get that level of excellence. So I wouldn't be able to do it justice.
I gotcha.
And so with that comes a sense of peace on it. Be like, you know what? You boys go on and go forward. And I have to wrap it up by saying, as an instructor, you always want to make sure you handed it off. Like, if you feel like you are so needed that the mission will fail without you, it's going to be even harder to give that up.
For sure.
And I don't know what's that old saying, that being a true master isn't about mastery yourself, it's about how many masters you create. And the Air Force takes a lot of people to do that. It takes your pilot training instructors, it takes your B course, fighter instructors, all the way to your senior instructors, tactical instructors in the squadron. And the talent seen from the young lieutenants coming up through pilot training and their dedication to the mission, their willingness to study and do the hard work, at least in the squadron here in the Hawaii Guard, has been just so good to see.
That's awesome.
And they're putting in the effort. And so it makes it feel comfortable to say,
You're handing the
You guys
torch,
got
it's
the
all
torch.
good.
Yeah, and you don't feel, and you know that you contributed to some of that talent. So that's nice.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. And you've got this bad boy
Yeah,
here.
that's right.
So just kind of tell us about the T6 and what you're doing here in Hawaii, because I think that's
Okay.
a cool aspect too.
So it kind of tied back to that flying Super Cubs growing up in Idaho, all that tailwheel experience when I was out here in the Guard.
Yep.
The guy that owned this airplane had a tour business out here, couldn't find any pilots that had tailwheel time to help out. And so I said, yeah, I can come help out part-time, and I'd love to
awesome.
learn how to fly a T6. And he ended up checking me out, and then quickly sold the company over to the owner of Paradise Helicopters, a former Marine. Great guy. And I was kind of their volunteer pilot. Pandemic hit, things closed down, moved on. They got another retired Air Force officer came in and helped him carry on this flight. And so I just go out and fly tours and try and keep the airplane alive, which is Pearl Harbor Warbirds.
That's so cool. I didn't even know it existed.
Right.
So you're flying over Pearl.
Yeah, we do World War II tours-ish over the island, and we try and show what it was like, where the Japanese would have come from, and where the 8 airfields were on the island at the time, and we always try and end the tour by flying right over Ford Island, looking down on the battlefield and Battleship Row, and telling that story and keeping that history alive. And so now there's 3 of us, all former Air Force guys
that are doing it,
that own this airplane, and we're keeping the business alive. And just try and share that view and experience from the air. So again, my flying's getting satisfied in the little airplanes.
I love that. So what? So where do you go to in order to even learn and sign up to do this? What's the website?
I was very fortunate. To get a tour.
To get a tour.
Yeah,
where do you go?
PearlHarborWarbirds.com.
PearlHarborWarbirds.com.
Yeah, we offer a half-hour and an hour tour.
Nice.
And that's a little bit pricey, but Hawaii with the cost of fuel and hangars
it is what
and
it
insurance.
Is. But I would say if you can fly in a T6,
yeah,
from the North Shore through the mountain pass that they went through over Pearl, and get a picture of the Arizona and the Missouri where it ended, where it started and it ended.
Right.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And the stories behind Ford Island and the cadets that were airborne at the time. And the history is just so cool here. And although we're not part of the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, we have links to that through one of our owners. And so that's been really fun to, they have a T6 in their museum, not flyable, but even the viewers, if you're on the Arizona Memorial, when we fly over, looking up and hearing that round engine,
that is awesome.
To it.
So you were flying F-22s and T6s at the same time.
Right.
That's crazy.
And Super Cubs.
That's the craziest thing ever, though. I love that. Well, ManBear, this has been an incredibly cool interview. Just to open up, as an aviation enthusiast, as a person who gets bit by the bug, we all fly different things. But something like an F-22, people go to air shows specifically to see the airplane. And they're proud of it because it's our tax dollars that have created this machine with the minds of America, which is very, very cool. It's inspiring to me. It's very inspiring. So thanks for just sharing your life, just sharing what it's been like, giving us kind of an inside view. We're going to see a little bit more video of the Raptor and some other things, so stay tuned.
Thanks, Mike. Brother. Thanks for paying your taxes and keeping that fuel tank full for me.
That's a lot, brother. That's a lot. All right, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.